Some artifacts should not exist. Some walls were built long before the first known civilization, and some symbols are carved into stone, in a language no one has ever seen. They're not in textbooks. They have no answers. They are the missing pieces of a forgotten history, one that could overturn everything we thought we knew. In this video, we unlock the door to archaeology's most unsolved enigmas, where the past whispers truths the present can't yet comprehend. Somewhere beneath the cold, restless waters of the Baltic Sea lies a city no map can agree on. A city of towering spires, radiant gold, and unspeakable pride, swallowed whole by the sea in a single moment of divine judgment. Vineta, whispered in sailors' tales, feared in local folklore, and often called the Atlantis of the North, a place so rich and powerful that it was said to rival Constantinople, until it vanished. No smoke, no war, just silence, and then waves. For over 1,000 years, its story has drifted across Europe, changing shape, changing shores, but never fading. Historians chase it, fishermen swear they've seen it, and the sea, as always, keeps its secrets. But the real mystery, Vineta's location, changes with every telling, as if the city itself is alive, moving with the tides, hiding from the eyes of time. According to legend, Vineta was once a thriving and radiant center along the shores of the Baltic Sea, a crossroads of commerce, art, and knowledge. The city's towering spires touched the sky, reflecting sunlight off the sea, while its bustling streets welcomed traders from across Europe and Asia. Some stories even claim that the people of Vineta possessed knowledge far beyond their time, creating a society that was nearly ideal in its advancement. But this very prosperity led to its downfall. Living in opulence, the citizens grew arrogant, morally corrupt, and lost their sense of humility and reverence for nature or the divine. They mocked warnings, turned their backs on faith and justice, and then, as a cruel punishment, the sea rose with fury, swallowing Vineta without a trace, leaving behind only faint whispers among the waves of a city that was once too magnificent to survive. What makes Vineta stand out among all the legends of sunken cities is not merely its wealth or tragic demise, but the mystery of its ever-shifting location. Unlike Atlantis, which though debated is still associated with a specific part of the ocean, Vineta seems to evade all fixed coordinates. Over the centuries, its name has drifted across European maps like a phantom. Some legends place it near the island of Usedom, where unexplained underwater structures have been found. Others claim it lies off the coast of the Polish town of Kołobrzeg. Still, some ancient sources point to the Oder River Delta, a boundary between salt water and marshes that may once have supported an ancient settlement. The fact that Vineta never stays in one place has made it a living legend, a city whose very uncertainty is what allows it to endure so vividly in human imagination. For centuries, scholars have tried to pinpoint the true location of Vineta, but each era has produced a different theory. A 16th century chronicle claimed that Vineta lay off the coast of the town of Wolgast, while a 17th century map shifted it farther north among sandbanks and shallow waters that easily change with the ocean currents. By the 19th century, with advances in geology, researchers began to suggest that tectonic shifts or rising sea levels might have completely erased medieval coastal settlements. From this, the idea emerged that Vineta was not a single city, but rather a fusion of several real towns lost to the sea, eventually woven into a unified legend through oral tradition. This fluid geography is not just a historical curiosity, it's central to why the legend has endured. By refusing to be anchored to one spot, Vineta becomes a canvas for local identity and storytelling. In every coastal village along the southern Baltic, you might hear a variation of the tale: a fisherman who saw golden rooftops beneath the waves on a full moon, or a church bell tolling deep below the water. Each version insists Vineta was just off their shore, just a few miles beyond where the waves break, and thus every place becomes the possible site of its grandeur and its downfall. In this way, Vineta mirrors the psychology of lost civilizations. We need these places to be just out of reach, not fully myth, not fully real, to sustain the mystery and wonder they inspire. The shifting location reflects our own uncertainty about the past and our desire to find meaning in ruins both literal and metaphorical. It also complicates the work of archaeologists. While underwater ruins and ancient artifacts have been discovered in places like Usedom and the Pomeranian Bay, none have definitively proven the existence of a grand drowned city. Is this absence evidence of a myth, or is it a clue that we haven't looked in the right place or the right time? Some geologists believe that the legend of Vineta may have originated from real natural disasters. During the medieval warm period, massive storms, tsunamis, or coastal erosion could have completely wiped out many seaside settlements, especially in the low-lying regions around the Baltic Sea. It's entirely possible that Vineta was the remnant of one of these cities, a place that truly existed, was erased by nature and gradually transformed into legend. If that's the case, then which forgotten medieval town became the backbone of the tale we now call the Atlantis of the North? The legend also persisted because of its moral weight. Like Atlantis, Vineta's destruction wasn't random. It was judgment for greed, pride, and excess. In this sense, it serves as a cautionary tale passed down for generations. But unlike the Greek clarity of Atlantis, Vineta's shifting nature makes the warning even more poignant. No one knows where it was, so everyone fears it could be anywhere or everywhere. Did Vineta truly exist? Or is it merely a reflection of humanity's fears and longing for a lost world? Could there still be ruins lying untouched beneath the Baltic Sea? Or are we simply retelling a story woven over centuries, a cautionary tale about pride and the cost of forgetting our origins? What do you think? Share your thoughts or theories in the comments. Is Vineta buried history or a beautiful legend born from collective memory? Vineta has also lived on in German and Baltic literature, folklore, and music. The 19th century in particular saw a wave of artistic fascination with the tale. Poets wrote of its golden domes shining through the water. Composers created operas echoing the lost bells of its churches, and painters imagined moonlit coastlines where the ghostly ruins shimmered just below the surface. To this day, Vineta festivals are held in seaside towns like Zinovitz, where plays are performed recounting the city's rise and fall. 9. A city that moves with the tide. Modern technology, including sonar mapping and underwater LiDAR, has scanned parts of the Baltic seabed, revealing curious stone alignments and buried anomalies. Yet none can be definitively linked to Vineta. That ambiguity is perhaps its greatest strength. It draws historians, conspiracy theorists, and dreamers alike, all chasing the shadow of a city that may never have been or may simply be waiting to be found. In the end, Vineta is less a place than a reflection of human ambition, imagination, and the haunting sense that we have forgotten more than we remember. Whether it lies beneath the sea, buried in sediment, or only in the collective memory of a region shaped by storms and silence, Vineta remains one of the world's most compelling lost cities, a shimmering mirage on ancient maps, a whisper in fishermen's tales, a myth that moves with the tides, and perhaps somewhere off the cold northern coast, a bell still rings beneath the waves. A glorious city that once blazed in the heart of the desert, then vanished without a trace, as if it had never existed. Amid the endless dead sands of the Rub al-Khali, one of the harshest regions on Earth, there once stood a legendary city whispered about for thousands of years across the Arab world, Ubar. No one knows what it was built, from how long it lasted, or why it fell. All that's known is that it was once a thriving hub of trade called Iram, the city of pillars, and then one day it was swallowed by the earth itself, disappearing in a strange and sudden collapse, as if cursed. No ruins, no witnesses, only legends and satellite images that now reveal chilling clues beneath the sands. Could this be the Atlantis of the desert? A warning from a vanished world erased in the blink of an eye. In the Quran, Ubar is given a majestic name, Iram, the city of pillars. Iram that al-Imad once praised as one of the most prosperous centers in the Arabian desert. According to the scripture, the people of Iram lived in extreme luxury, but they grew arrogant, immoral, and disconnected from righteousness. Their pride came at a terrible cost. The divine response was a devastating cold wind that blew for many days, erasing the city entirely. No survivors, no trace. For centuries, this story was considered mere religious legend. Few believed that Ubar ever truly existed. But when modern satellite images and archaeological findings began to reveal suspicious remnants beneath the sands of the Rub al-Khali desert, scholars were forced to confront a stunning possibility. Could this city, once punished by the heavens, have actually been real? And could it have vanished in a way more brutal than any myth ever imagined? Thousands of years ago, Ubar held a central position in one of the most valuable trade networks of the ancient world, the frankincense route. This precious resin frankincense was not only used in religious rituals, but also regarded as a symbol of wealth and power. It was so valuable that it was often referred to as white gold in ancient times. The only known source came from the boswellia tree, which grew exclusively in a few arid regions of the Arabian Peninsula. Ubar, situated at the crossroads of caravan routes from Yemen to Oman, became a critical transit hub, a place where camel caravans stopped to resupply with water, trade goods, and relay messages. These caravans braved the harsh desert, carrying frankincense, myrrh, gemstones, and precious metals to empires such as Rome, ancient Egypt, and Persia. Tales of a city hidden deep within a sea of sand, so wealthy it defied imagination, began to spread, turning Ubar into both a commercial epicenter and a living legend in the desert. Among all the legends of vanished cities across the world, the name Ubar stands out not for its luxury or mythical technology, but for the eerie and absolute way it disappeared. There were no signs of war, no charred ruins, no records of natural disasters or invasions. All that remained was a chilling tale, an entire city swallowed by the earth in a single night, as if the gods themselves had erased it from history. Today, modern geologists and archaeologists have proposed a shocking yet scientifically sound theory. Ubar may have collapsed into a massive geological sinkhole. This phenomenon is common in regions where porous limestone lies beneath the surface, easily eroded by groundwater. Ancient accounts describe Ubar as being built around a large water well, a vital oasis where caravans stopped to rest and resupply, meaning this area was likely subjected to heavy groundwater extraction over centuries. Over time, the underlying rock weakened from erosion and pressure until one day it could no longer bear the weight above. The entire city center collapsed, pulling down homes, towers, temples, and even its people, into the earth, leaving no trace but a flat, silent layer of sand, as if nothing had ever stood there. Astonishingly, in the early 1990s, NASA satellite imagery revealed ancient trade routes buried beneath the desert, converging at a point near Shugborough, Oman. When archaeologists excavated the site, they discovered circular fortress walls, collapsed structures, and an unusually deep well matching perfectly with the legendary descriptions. There were no signs of fire, war, or cataclysm, only the quiet collapse of the earth itself, a hidden danger lurking beneath the silent desert. And so Ubar, once a symbol of prosperity, became a city buried alive, forgotten beneath an ocean of sand, sending a chill through the modern world as its ghost finally came to light. After more than a millennium of being forgotten in historical records, Ubar suddenly returned to the world's attention in the early 1990s, not due to a chance excavation, but thanks to NASA's satellite imaging technology. An international team of archaeologists led by Nicholas Clapp, a documentary filmmaker with a passion for archaeology, used infrared satellite images to trace ancient trade routes buried deep beneath the desert sands. In those images, faint lines like ghostly wagon tracks appeared leading to a junction of several ancient paths in the region of Shugborough, Oman. This land had long been considered sacred by local Bedouins, but no one expected that beneath it lay the ruins of an ancient city. When excavation began, the team uncovered collapsed watchtowers, thick fortress walls, ancient artifacts, and most remarkably, an unusually deep well at the center. While it cannot be definitively confirmed that this is the legendary Ubar, the combination of evidence from defensive architecture and its strategic location along the trade network to signs of subsidence matches the ancient accounts with eerie precision. Modern technology not only allowed humanity to retrace the steps of a lost civilization, but also proved that beneath seemingly silent landscapes there may lie entire chapters of history still waiting to be revealed. The story of Ubar is more than an archaeological mystery. It is a cautionary tale about the fragility of civilization. A city can be rich, powerful, and revered, but if it is built on unstable ground, and if it places too much faith in its own invincibility, its downfall can arrive swiftly and without warning. Was Ubar real, or was it just a symbol? Perhaps it doesn't matter. What does matter is that it has lived on in the imagination of humankind as a desert-bound Atlantis, and a haunting reminder that beneath the sands, secrets still lie waiting to be uncovered. What do you think really happened to Ubar? Did this city truly collapse into the earth, as the legend says, or are the stories about Ubar simply exaggerations, born from ancient imagination? How many more secrets might still be buried beneath deserts humanity has yet to fully explore? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Ubar once existed, or was it just a historical mirage that never truly was? Deep in Colombia's untamed jungle, beyond the reach of any road or modern map, lies a ghost of a civilization, carved into the mountains, swallowed by the forest, and forgotten for centuries. They call it Ciudad Perdida, the lost city, but that name only scratches the surface of its mystery. Built over 200 years ago, long before the rise of Machu Picchu, it wasn't just a city, it was a kingdom in the clouds, a hidden sanctuary of stone and spirit alive with sacred rituals and secrets whispered to the trees. Who were the people who built this place, high above the rivers and beneath the mists? Why did they vanish without a trace, leaving behind only moss-covered terraces, silent staircases, and a haunting absence that no scholar has ever been able to explain? Ciudad Perdida is not merely a ruin. It is a question etched into the earth, one that refuses to be answered. To reach Ciudad Perdida, There are no paved roads or modern vehicles that can take you there. The journey to this lost city is a true test of physical endurance and mental resolve, lasting several days through the primeval rainforest of the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. One must trek through dense jungle, cross fast-flowing rivers, wade through mud, and climb thousands of ancient stone steps slick with moss. High humidity, insects, treacherous terrain, and unpredictable weather make every step a challenge. But it is precisely this struggle that gives Ciudad Perdida its sacred and mysterious aura. When at last you emerge through the thick mist and lush canopy, a breathtaking scene unfolds: tiered stone terraces cascading along the mountainside, strange circular plazas, and stairways that seem to lead into a forgotten world. The silence is so profound, you can hear the wind rustling through the leaves and your own heartbeat. This is not merely an archaeological site, it is a place of pilgrimage where every stone carries the spirit of a vanished civilization. Ciudad Perdida was not a city built by chance, but the result of an astonishing level of organization and engineering from the Tairona civilization. The Tairona people, master architects, craftsmen, and spiritual practitioners, planned the city with remarkable precision, in perfect harmony with the rugged mountainous jungle terrain. They skillfully carved stone terraces along the hillsides to serve as foundations for dwellings, created dozens of ceremonial circular plazas, and engineered underground water channels to bring fresh spring water to every residential area. The entire city seems to intertwine with nature rather than resist it. Its architecture reflects not only functionality, but also spiritual depth. Every location, every shape, held cultural and religious significance. With a capacity to house between 2,000 and 8,000 inhabitants, Ciudad Perdida is considered one of the largest urban centers in pre-Columbian Colombia, a testament to a society that not only knew how to build, but how to live harmoniously and sustainably within the heart of nature. Although Ciudad Perdida was once a thriving urban center, it was abandoned under mysterious circumstances. There are no traces of war, no signs of sudden destruction, and most notably, no written records left behind. The Tairona people did not use a writing system. They left no texts or inscriptions describing the city's history. What remains are sturdy stone structures, ceremonial beads, ritual pottery, and gold figurines, all silent, as if deliberately guarding their secrets. This abrupt disappearance continues to puzzle archaeologists and modern explorers alike. How could a civilization so advanced in both engineering and spirituality vanish without explanation? What drove them to leave this sacred place? Or was it all part of a plan that we simply cannot comprehend? The collapse of Ciudad Perdida remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern South American archaeology. Once a cultural and spiritual center of the Tairona people, the city was strategically located at high altitude with abundant fresh water, fertile land, and natural protection from the surrounding mountainous jungle. Yet this place, once likely home to thousands, was abandoned without any clear explanation. Numerous theories have been proposed, but none are truly convincing. Was Ciudad Perdida destroyed like many other indigenous civilizations, wiped out by the Spanish? Strangely, there are no signs of violence. No burned walls, no ruined fortifications, no mass graves. Could the Tairona have foreseen the threat and quietly evacuated before being discovered, a civilized retreat that left no trace? Another possibility is disease. During colonial times, illnesses like smallpox and measles devastated native populations that had no immunity. Perhaps Ciudad Perdida fell victim to a silent biological disaster before foreign invaders ever arrived, a quiet extinction that erased its people without a record? Or was it a natural disaster? The Sierra Nevada region is prone to landslides, floods, and earthquakes, but so far there is no archaeological evidence of any major catastrophe at the time of the city's abandonment. Finally, a deeper theory has been suggested by spiritual and cultural scholars. Ciudad Perdida did not collapse, it was intentionally relinquished. It may have been a ceremonial center meant only to exist for a specific period, and when its spiritual purpose was fulfilled, the people left in silence, guided by a cultural or religious cycle we no longer understand. This conscious withdrawal, not out of fear or defeat, opens the possibility that their departure was itself part of their worldview. All the theories seem plausible, yet none fully explain what happened. And it is that very void which makes Ciudad Perdida not just a ruin, but a living question in the heart of the jungle. A mystery not yet ready to be revealed. Adding to the enigma is the role of modern indigenous communities. To this day, the Kogi-Ahuaco Wiwa and other descendants of the Tairona return to Ciudad Perdida, known to them as Teyuna, for spiritual rituals. They insist it was never lost, only hidden. They see outsiders not as discoverers, but as intruders. To them, the city is still alive. Ciudad Perdida remained forgotten for centuries until 1972, when a group of treasure hunters accidentally discovered its ancient stone steps deep in the jungle while searching for gold. This discovery quickly triggered a wave of looting and illegal artifact trading, resulting in the loss of many valuable relics to private hands. Faced with the risk of this cultural heritage being destroyed, archaeologists stepped in to excavate and partially restore parts of the city's structure. However, intense opposition from local indigenous communities who regarded the site as sacred forced the Colombian government to change its approach. The city was eventually placed under strict protection with limited tourist access and a joint management system involving indigenous peoples in order to preserve both the spiritual essence and integrity of this legendary place. Why was a flourishing city in a rich, defensible region simply left behind? Why did the Tairona vanish while others endured? Was it nature disease, invasion, or a sacred plan beyond our comprehension? As you stand in Ciudad Perdida, surrounded by ancient terraces and mist, you don't find answers. You find echoes, whispers, a city that refuses to explain itself. And that's why it haunts us still. Because the greatest ruins are not those we understand. They are those that leave us wondering. And Ciudad Perdida, still wrapped in mystery, keeps whispering through the jungle. What do you think really happened to the Tairona people and Ciudad Perdida? Did they retreat as part of a sacred ritual? Or was there a disaster that was never recorded? Or perhaps we're simply not ready yet to fully understand what they left behind. Share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes a fresh perspective might reveal a missing piece in a mystery thousands of years old. A forbidden city whispered through sandstorms and centuries. Buried somewhere beneath the blistering sands of the Sahara lies a secret so old, even the desert itself may have forgotten it. For centuries, travelers have spoken of a shimmering white city, Zazura, a place where palm trees rise from nowhere, fountains gush in defiance of the sun, and white walls glisten like bone under a searing sky. Some called it a myth. Others vanished while searching for it. But Zazura isn't just another lost city. Unlike Atlantis, it was never meant to be symbolic, it was said to be real. Guarded by black giants, hidden behind stone gates, marked by a golden key. Its legend didn't fade in libraries, it lived on, in desert songs, in Bedouin maps etched into memory, and in the obsessions of men who risked their lives to find it. Now, a century later, with satellite scans and archaeological curiosity, renewed researchers are starting to believe that Zazura may have truly existed, not as a fable, but as a once thriving oasis that the desert, with all its brutal patience, simply erased from sight. Could a city this wondrous truly vanish beneath the dunes? Or has it been waiting all along, silent, buried, and watching? The earliest mentions of Zazura appear in Arabic texts such as the Kitab al-Kanuz, the Book of Treasures, where it's described as a city of white buildings, a golden key to enter, and a sleeping king, surrounded by mysterious guardians. This fabled realm was said to be protected by black giants who would kill any intruder, and its gates remained hidden from the world unless the desert itself chose to reveal them. More than just a city, Zazura was said to be a paradise in the most unlikely of places. A place where palm trees offered shade, crystal-clear water bubbled from underground springs, and fruits grew in defiance of the desert's tyranny. Even Bedouins who roamed the region for generations spoke of travelers who had vanished after claiming to seek it, or who returned, altered, mumbling about cities made of light and walls that shone in the sun. In the early 20th century, a phenomenon known as Zazura fever began to haunt the minds of European explorers, especially those who believed that ancient legends might contain fragments of historical truth. Among them, none stood out more than Laszlo Almasi, the Hungarian adventurer who later inspired the main character in the famous novel and film The English Patient. Alongside Ralph Bagnold, a respected desert surveyor, Almasi led a series of daring expeditions deep into the Libyan desert, equipped with GPS maps, aerial reconnaissance cameras, and translated texts from ancient Arabic sources. What set them apart was that they weren't chasing desert mirages. They were following real clues, oral testimonies from local Bedouins, strange terrain patterns from aerial imagery, and traces of ancient life buried in the sand. In 1932, Almasi claimed to have discovered 3 valleys located within the Gilf Kebir Plateau, which matched ancient descriptions of Zazura with remarkable precision. There, they uncovered fossilized plants, animal remains, and most notably prehistoric rock paintings in what is now known as the Cave of Swimmers. These findings suggested that the region was once humid and lush, completely at odds with the arid wasteland we see today. The question remains, did Zazura once exist here? Or was this merely a stepping stone on the path to uncovering a much greater truth still hidden beneath the sands? This is where the legend begins to shift from myth to plausible archaeology. While many ancient cities have been mythologized into oblivion, Zazura's story persists because of a peculiar consistency in descriptions and because the Saharan sands are known to conceal entire ecological histories beneath their surface. Scientists and geologists now believe that parts of the Sahara Desert were once lush savannas and home to thriving ecosystems. Satellite imagery from NASA and ground surveys reveal fossilized riverbeds, buried lake basins, and ancient irrigation patterns across regions thought to be lifeless. These findings suggest that Zazura could indeed have been a real oasis, part of an intricate network of prehistoric trade routes or settlements that were gradually covered by sandstorms, tectonic shifts, and climate changes. Particularly in the Gilf Kebir and Uwainat regions, strange rock formations and collapsed structures have been found, possibly remnants of old encampments, forgotten trails, or even stone foundations of ancient buildings. These features align eerily well with the geography described in Arabic sources: 3 valleys hidden between plateaus near difficult-to-navigate wadis. Moreover, the presence of underground aquifers in these regions supports the idea that a once flourishing oasis could now lie completely dormant or buried inaccessible without deep excavation or advanced LiDAR scanning. If Zazura was once a green gem in the desert, it likely suffered the same fate as other ancient sites like Ubar in Oman. Thought lost for centuries before its foundations were discovered via satellite. In this context, Zazura represents more than a ghost story. It stands as a symbol of how landscapes evolve, how human memory outlives visibility, and how entire civilizations can vanish not because of war or collapse, but because of nature's quiet reclamation. The image of giants guarding Zazura has long been a haunting symbol in ancient Arab legends. From the perspective of modern historians, this detail is often interpreted metaphorically. It may represent hostile tribes, massive natural stone pillars standing like sentinels, or simply the fear of the unknown in the minds of those who dared cross the desert. Regardless of the interpretation, this symbol has endured for centuries, from medieval Islamic texts to the journals of European explorers, and even into modern films and video games. Zazura has been romanticized as a desert Atlantis, a forbidden, beautiful realm that hides ancient knowledge and treasures humanity has yet to uncover. And it is this powerful mystique that has kept the legend alive through time. Not merely a geographic myth, but a mirror reflecting humanity's eternal fascination with what is lost, what remains unsolved, and the sacred beauty of things forgotten. Despite numerous expeditions, no definitive Zazura has ever been uncovered. Some argue it was a mythological projection, a mirage of hope in an environment that punished dreamers. Others insist it lies just beneath the surface, requiring only the right technology or the right eyes to be found. And therein lies Zazura's power. It may be less a place and more a concept, a reminder that history is never truly lost, only hidden, and that beneath every dune may lie a doorway to something long forgotten. With ongoing advancements in remote sensing, climate modeling, and archaeological scanning, it's entirely possible that what we call Zazura will someday be unearthed not as a city of gold, but as a window into Earth's lost ecosystems and the civilizations that once called them home. Would you step into the desert for a chance to find Zazura? Or is the true magic of this oasis that it still hasn't been found? What do you think, was Zazura real, or just a beautiful lie told by the wind and the dunes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The lost city that shouldn't exist, but might. For thousands of years, Dwarka was spoken of in whispers, a radiant city of gold and gemstones, ruled by a god, built by divine hands, and swallowed whole by the sea. It was a legend too spectacular to be true and too persistent to die. But then something happened. Off the western coast of India, deep beneath the turbulent waters of the Arabian Sea, sonar scans began revealing impossible shapes, symmetrical patterns, ancient foundations, the unmistakable fingerprint of civilization where there should have been none. What if the myth was never just a myth? What if Dwarka really existed? And what if its ruins are still out there, waiting to rewrite everything we know about the ancient world? In the epic Mahabharata, Dwarka is described as a divine city built by the god of construction, Vishwakarma, under Krishna's command. With palaces made of crystal and silver, adorned with emeralds and sapphire, the city was unlike any other known to man. It had wide boulevards, grand gates, public squares, lush gardens, and a complex port system, details far too intricate for a purely mythological tale. Krishna is said to have ruled Dwarka as a statesman and divine figure. The city became a symbol of prosperity, order, and spiritual greatness. Yet the legend ends in tragedy. After Krishna's departure from the mortal world, the city was swallowed by the sea, vanishing without a trace. For centuries, scholars and archaeologists regarded Dwarka as purely a mythological construct, a sacred city that existed only in epic tales and religious belief. However, a turning point came in 2001 when the National Institute of Ocean Technology (NIOT), in collaboration with the Marine Archaeology Centre of India, conducted a seabed survey in the Gulf of Kambat. What they discovered shocked the scientific community. At a depth of around 36 meters, they identified a vast network of man-made structures stretching over 9 kilometers. The shapes revealed by sonar scans were unmistakably artificial. They bore the clear outlines of foundations, boundary walls, and grid-like layouts characteristic of ancient urban planning. Some stone blocks were rectangular. Others were arranged in stepped patterns resembling temple platforms, indicating a deliberate and intelligent design rather than a random formation. These findings opened up the possibility that an ancient city, perhaps the legendary Dwarka, had indeed existed and was swallowed by the sea, shaking long-held beliefs about where mythology ends and history begins. Among the discoveries made beneath the Gulf of Kambat, what astonished archaeologists the most were the concrete, verifiable physical evidences uncovered at the site. They found stone anchors similar to those used in ancient ports, strongly suggesting that the area once functioned as a maritime trade hub. In addition, there were hand-carved stone blocks and foundations, along with pottery shards, beads, and crafted tools, all clear indicators of an advanced urban society. Most notably, fossilized human remains and wooden structural elements were recovered. When samples of the wood were analyzed through radiocarbon dating, the results were staggering, approximately 9,000 years old, dating back to around 7,000 BCE. This discovery significantly predates the established timeline of the Indus Valley Civilization and could even be contemporary with or earlier than the earliest known cities of Mesopotamia. Such findings raise a profound and unsettling question. Could India have once been home to one of the oldest urban centers in human history, now buried beneath the sea, its story lost before history ever had the chance to record it? Although the underwater archaeological findings in the Gulf of Kambat are undeniably impressive, scholars have yet to reach a consensus on whether this site truly represents the legendary city of Dwarka, ruled by Lord Krishna. Some scientists argue that the existing evidence, while intriguing, remains inconclusive. To date, no artifacts or inscriptions explicitly naming the site as Dwarka have been uncovered. This lack of direct proof fuels skepticism that the structures on the seabed might be natural geological formations or the remnants of an unrelated ancient settlement that happened to be submerged over time. However, the striking correlations between the archaeological data and ancient scriptures make it difficult to dismiss the Dwarka hypothesis outright. The geographic location of the submerged ruins off the coast of Gujarat almost exactly matches descriptions found in the Mahabharata. Moreover, those ancient texts clearly state that Krishna's city was swallowed by the sea, mirroring the current underwater condition of the structures. Additionally, the architectural patterns discovered beneath the sea bear strong similarities to those found in modern-day Dwarka on land. Notably, multiple independent dives and sonar surveys have confirmed consistent structural layouts at various seabed locations, strongly challenging the notion of a natural origin. Taken together, these factors form a web of coincidences that is difficult to ignore, prompting increasing scholarly interest in the theory that the ancient city of Dwarka may indeed lie buried beneath the waves. For many in India, the idea of a historical Dwarka is more than an academic pursuit. It is a cultural resurrection. If the underwater ruins are indeed the remnants of Krishna's city, it confirms deep-rooted oral traditions and epic stories as historical events. It validates the religious texts not just spiritually, but archaeologically. The modern town of Dwarka, located on the Saurashtra coast of Gujarat, is now a major pilgrimage site, attracting thousands annually. Known as one of the Chardam Four sacred abodes, its link to the sunken city beneath the waves adds a powerful layer of mystique. Despite decades of exploration, many questions remain. Why did the city sink? Was it a tsunami rising sea levels or tectonic shifts? Was this a global pattern of coastal cities being submerged during the early Holocene epoch? Are there more ancient cities lying undiscovered off India's coasts? Marine archaeology is a difficult and expensive endeavor. The waters are murky currents, unpredictable, and sediment levels often high. But Dwarka has fueled unprecedented interest in underwater archaeology in South Asia and is slowly rewriting history with each expedition. Dwarka's discovery has sparked comparisons with other submerged legends, Atlantis in the West Yonaguni near Japan and Herakleion in Egypt. Together, they suggest a lost chapter in human history, where coastal civilizations once flourished before being drowned by cataclysm or climate change. Could the myth of Atlantis simply be another Dwarka in a different cultural lens? Could there have been a global network of advanced coastal cultures now resting beneath the waves? In the story of Dwarka, we find something rare, a convergence of myth, religion, science, and mystery. For the faithful, Dwarka is proof that the scriptures told the truth. For historians, it's a challenge to expand timelines. And for the curious mind, it is a doorway to exploring the untold past beneath the sea. Dwarka reminds us that history may not be confined to dusty ruins on dry land, but could also lie hidden beneath the waves, waiting for us to rediscover it. If the submerged ruins truly are the remnants of the legendary city of Dwarka, it wouldn't just reshape the history of India, it could rewrite the entire timeline of human civilization. But what do you think? Could this be evidence that ancient myths and epics conceal real truths lost to time? Or is it merely a coincidence? Nature mimicking the imagination of the ancients? Share your thoughts. Dwarka, a forgotten truth or an eternal legend? Imagine a city where every road leads to a grand temple of Poseidon, god of the sea and earthquakes, a place not only revered as a sacred spiritual center, but also served as the headquarters of a powerful alliance, the Achaean League. That city was Helike, a shining jewel of ancient Greece, holding both military might and religious prestige. Prosperous in trade, strategic in location, and majestic in culture, Helike minted coins engraved with the image of Poseidon riding a hippocampus, circulated from the Greek mainland to the shores of Asia Minor. From its towering temples to the waves crashing below its walls, this was once the living symbol of a civilization that bridged land and ocean. But in a cruel twist of fate, it was that very sea that swallowed it whole. In the winter of 373 BCE, Helike, one of the most powerful cities in the Achaean region, was struck by one of the most devastating natural disasters in ancient Greek history. A violent earthquake erupted unexpectedly at night, shattering the very foundations of the city. Almost immediately after, a massive tsunami, believed to be triggered by the quake, swept across the Helike plain, engulfing everything in its path: homes, temples, residents, even trees. No one had time to escape. In a single night, the entire city was submerged beneath seawater and buried under thick layers of mud. Ancient accounts describe how, by the next morning, only the tips of temple columns were visible above the surface, silent witnesses to a civilization erased without warning. Helike vanished, not only in physical form, but also faded from memory, a deep rupture between past glory and utter oblivion. The sudden and total disappearance of Helike not only horrified those who lived at the time, but also became a subject recorded in many ancient texts. Historians such as Diodorus Siculus Strabo and Pausanias documented the story of a once prosperous city that was swallowed by the sea in a single night. Based on these descriptions, many modern scholars believe that Plato, while crafting the legend of Atlantis, may have drawn direct inspiration from the Helike disaster. Like Atlantis, Helike was a wealthy, powerful cultural center with its own religious identity ultimately destroyed by the fury of nature. But what makes Helike remarkable is that it is not just a myth, it is a real event supported by geological and archaeological evidence. It demonstrates that what seem like fantastical legends may in fact be rooted in the memories of real catastrophes passed down and mythologized through generations. Among all the strange elements surrounding Helike, perhaps the fact that it remained lost for over 2,000 years is what astonishes posterity the most. Despite being mentioned frequently in ancient sources from epics and geographical texts to travelers' accounts, Helike had completely vanished from the real-world map. For centuries, scholars believed the city had sunk entirely to the bottom of the Gulf of Corinth after the devastating earthquake and tsunami of 373 BCE. They imagined Helike as a sort of Greek Atlantis, forever buried beneath the sea and unreachable through traditional archaeological methods. Throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, Helike became a symbol of a forgotten civilization. Geographers, explorers, and even treasure hunters searched for its location based on ancient descriptions, but all failed. What makes this even more intriguing is that many of the old accounts were highly specific eyewitnesses claimed that for years after the disaster, sailors could still see the temple columns protruding from the sea, and some even reported fish swimming between the ruins. But over time, mud silt and geological shifts gradually concealed every trace. It was as if nature had not only erased Helike physically, but also scrubbed it from collective memory. This prolonged disappearance is what gave rise to the legend of Helike, not simply because the city sank, but because it vanished so stubbornly and inexplicably for more than 2 millennia. The fact that Helike couldn't be found, even with clear historical evidence, turned it into an obsession for archaeologists. Many began to believe that if Helike had truly existed, then other so-called legendary cities might also have roots in historical reality, not just myth. This vanishing act also reveals a sobering truth. Nature can effortlessly devour an entire civilization, then bury it so thoroughly that humanity can no longer distinguish legend from fact. Helike came to symbolize a unique kind of ghost city, one that was real, once inhabited, with a documented past, but utterly unreachable and invisible. It serves as a cautionary reminder that science doesn't always conquer time, and some historical questions may take many generations to fully answer. For more than 2 millennia, Helike existed only in ancient texts and the imaginations of scholars. But in the 1990s, a major turning point arrived when archaeologist Dwarka and geologist Stephen Sota proposed a bold hypothesis. Helike had not sunk to the bottom of the sea as widely believed, but had instead been buried beneath thick layers of silt near the coast, just a few kilometers from the current shoreline. Using geological data and models of deltaic transformation, after seismic events they began excavations near the village of Rizamailos. Then came the breakthrough. In 2001, they uncovered layers of ancient building foundations, pottery shards, coins bearing the image of Poseidon, and stone-paved roads, all perfectly matching the era when Helike had thrived. Far from lying at the bottom of the sea, Helike had been resting just beneath the sediment, carefully concealed by nature itself, like a forgotten gem. This discovery was not only a major archaeological achievement, but also powerful proof that ancient legends can be rooted in real events, waiting only for the right patience and a shift in perspective to be uncovered. The discovery of Helike not only helped reconstruct a forgotten chapter of ancient Greek history, but also delivered a profound lesson for the modern world. It shows that many seemingly irrational legends may actually originate from real disasters passed down through collective memory and gradually shrouded in myth over time. Helike stands as vivid proof of the deep connection between geology and history, a city erased by nature, then buried by time. In an age of increasing climate change and seismic risk, the story of Helike reminds us that no civilization is immune to the forces of nature. Helike is not just a lost city, it is a testament to the endurance of human curiosity and intellect. From being buried for 2,000 years to finally being unearthed and decoded, Helike's story teaches us that history may slumber, but it always awaits those with the patience and passion to awaken it. What do you think about the fact that a once mighty city like Helike could completely vanish for over 2,000 years, even though the ancients left behind so many written accounts of it? How many other civilizations might still be buried beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? If you could choose one legend to uncover the truth behind which lost city would you explore? Share your thoughts in the comments. Who knows, we might just be peering into a doorway to forgotten history. Deep in the heart of the Amazon, beyond the reach of satellites, maps, and modern memory, there's a story whispered only in myth. A city carved in stone, buried beneath vines, and guarded by centuries of silence, Akakor. But this is no ordinary lost city. According to those few who dare speak its name, Akakor was built not by the hands of ancient humans, but by beings who came from the stars, visitors who arrived long before recorded history, bearing knowledge, power, and prophecy. Their legacy, a sacred city, with underground halls, unearthly technology, and a promise to return. Dismissed by many, sought by few, and known by even fewer, Akakor remains one of the greatest unsolved riddles of our time, where legend, deception, and forbidden truths collide in the depths of the jungle. The legend of Akakor burst into public awareness in 1972 when German journalist Karl Brugger published a book titled The Chronicle of Akakor. This book was based on a series of interviews with a man named Tatunka Nara, who claimed to be the prince and spiritual leader of the Uga Mongolala, an unknown tribe said to live in complete secrecy somewhere in the Amazon rainforest. According to Tatunka, the history of his people stretched back over 15,000 years, and their origins were intertwined with celestial visitors who arrived from beyond the stars. At the heart of this narrative stood Akakor, not just a city, but a holy sanctuary, the jewel of a forgotten civilization and the ultimate link between ancient humanity and extraterrestrial intelligence. It was described as being constructed by gods from the sky, using techniques and tools far beyond anything known to humankind. Gigantic stone structures, tunnel systems stretching for hundreds of kilometers, and knowledge of astronomy, medicine, and energy all were said to have been gifts bestowed upon the ancestors of Tatunka's people by these otherworldly beings. According to the Chronicle, these gods came from a star system known to the Uga Mongolala as Aldebaran, a real star visible from Earth, and often associated with mysticism and ancient alien theories. These celestial beings descended in flaming chariots, taught the local inhabitants the arts of civilization, and laid the foundation for Akakor and its sister cities, Akanis and Akahim. Their reign lasted for thousands of years, and their legacy was encoded in oral traditions passed from generation to generation. According to Tatunka Nara, the city of Akakor was unlike any structure known to modern humanity. It wasn't built on the surface, but was carved directly into the cliffs and mountainsides deep within the Amazon rainforest, forming an enormous underground architectural system. Temples, palaces, corridors, and living quarters were all located far beneath the earth, connected to one another like a stone labyrinth stretching hundreds of kilometers. Remarkably, these constructions were said to be earthquake-resistant, built with such precision that no modern tool could replicate them. Inside the chambers were ancient libraries containing forgotten knowledge, undeciphered texts, strange devices, and even objects emitting unknown forms of energy. The entire city appeared to be a concealed underground civilization complex, completely hidden from the outside world, suggesting that it was not merely a place to live, but rather a sacred sanctuary of technology and wisdom from an era we still do not fully understand. But what truly sets Akakor apart from other lost cities is its divine narrative. Unlike El Dorado, which is often portrayed as a city of gold, or Atlantis, a cautionary tale of hubris, Akakor is framed as a sanctuary of wisdom preserved by the guidance of alien intelligences. The inhabitants of the city were believed to be chosen, protected, and occasionally visited by their celestial creators. In some accounts, these beings left Earth but promised to return when the world was in chaos to reawaken ancient knowledge and guide humanity once more. The theological and cosmic implications of Akakor are profound. It challenges the idea of linear human progress and proposes a model of cyclical interaction between Earth and non-human civilizations. It implies that human civilization may have been jump-started by outside forces, and that knowledge once thought to be divine or mythical could have had tangible physical origins rooted in advanced technology. Yet for all its wonder, Akakor remains elusive. Numerous expeditions have tried to locate the city or remnants of the Uga Mongulala tribe, but none have returned with concrete archaeological evidence. Even Tatuncha Nara himself became a figure of controversy. Investigations into his background revealed suspicious inconsistencies. Some claimed he was actually a German man named Günther Hauck, who had reinvented himself as a jungle prophet. Despite the mystery surrounding his identity, the core of his story about Akakor and its divine origins continues to captivate. Critics argue that the entire Akakor legend is a hoax, a well-constructed blend of science fiction, ancient myths, and Amazonian folklore. They point to the lack of verifiable evidence, the fantastical timelines, and the implausibility of the technological claims. Others counter that the Amazon is vast and largely unexplored, with thick canopies, hiding ruins, geoglyphs, and entire settlements that satellites cannot detect. Indeed, in recent years, LIDAR technology has uncovered dozens of hidden cities and massive geometrical earthworks under the rainforest floor, some of which align eerily well with Tatunka's descriptions. Moreover, the idea of gods descending from the sky is not unique to Akakor. Similar myths appear in Sumerian texts, Hopi legends, the Dogon of Mali, and even Mesoamerican deities like Quetzalcoatl. These recurring motifs have led many to believe that either a common ancient experience is being referenced or that humanity's ancient past is far stranger than we are prepared to accept. Today, Akakor lives on as a symbol of forbidden history. It represents a world where boundaries between myth and fact blur, where ancient humans may have once walked alongside cosmic teachers, and where the answers to who we are might still be buried beneath the vines of the Amazon. Whether Akakor is real or a brilliant fabrication, its story reminds us that the Earth still holds secrets too deep, too vast, and too sacred to be easily dismissed. Could the jungles of Brazil still conceal the ruins of a lost city built by beings from the stars? Until the forest gives up its secrets, or until the gods return, we may never truly know. But one thing is certain: Akakor has etched itself into the imagination of a generation as a riddle wrapped in legend, shielded by the jungle and guided by the stars. So, if what Tatuncha Nara said is true, could Akakor be evidence that humanity once had contact with an extraterrestrial civilization? Or is it merely a cleverly woven legend, blending fact with imagination? What do you think about the possibility of a buried city hiding knowledge far beyond its time deep within the Amazon rainforest? Share your thoughts. Is Akakor a myth, a lie, or the first clue to a hidden history? Deep within the tangled jungles of Central America, colossal stone pyramids rise from the undergrowth, silent sentinels of a civilization that once rivaled the greatest of the ancient world. This was the land of the Maya astronomers, engineers, poets, and priests whose legacy stretches across millennia. They charted the heavens with astonishing precision, carved history into stone with a language of symbols, and ruled over mighty city-states that gleamed in the sun. And then, without warning, they vanished. By the end of the 9th century, their grand cities were deserted, their palaces overtaken by vines, their gods left in silence. No war left a clear victor. No natural disaster etched its fury in the stone. What happened to the Maya? How could a civilization so advanced, so widespread, simply fade into the shadows of history? The answer lies hidden, partially revealed by archaeology, whispered in ancient glyphs, and entangled in mystery. This is the story of a rise that touched the stars, and a fall that still haunts the earth. The Maya civilization flourished across a vast region, stretching from southern Mexico to present-day Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. What's truly remarkable is that unlike the Egyptians or Mesopotamians who settled near great rivers, the Maya chose to inhabit some of the most challenging terrains, ranging from arid highlands to dense tropical rainforests. Their exceptional adaptability allowed them to construct magnificent urban centers such as Tikal, Palenque, Copan, and Chichen Itza, each a marvel of engineering, architecture, and political organization. Monumental structures like tiered pyramids, multi-level palaces, underground water channels, and ceremonial plazas demonstrate that the Maya developed a highly sophisticated urban system capable of functioning effectively amid harsh natural environments. Their ability to plan cities in harmony with the landscape, along with the seamless integration of religious and architectural elements, reflects a visionary civilization, one that not only survived but truly thrived in the heart of the jungle. Central to Maya society was a deep spiritual life that intertwined politics, astronomy, and nature worship. Their religion involved complex pantheons of gods tied to the sun maze, rain, and death. Kings were seen as divine intermediaries, performing elaborate ceremonies, including human sacrifices, to appease the gods and maintain cosmic order. Great pyramids served not just as temples, but also as stages for rituals and celestial observatories. Their written language, composed of intricate glyphs, was the most advanced script in pre-Columbian America. Carved into stelae and recorded in bark paper codices, these writings offer insights into Maya history, mythology, astronomy, and daily life. Equally impressive was their calendar system, particularly the long count calendar, which tracked time over thousands of years and accurately predicted solar eclipses and planetary cycles. Socially and politically, Maya civilization was structured into city-states ruled by kings, each with their own court, military, and religious hierarchy. While some cities engaged in alliances, others were locked in constant warfare. Despite this fragmentation, the Maya shared a common cultural and religious worldview expressed in art, architecture, and ritual practices across the region. Perhaps the most mysterious aspect of the Maya civilization lies not in its former glory, but in its sudden collapse. By the end of the 9th century, many major cities in the southern lowlands, once thriving centers of politics, religion, and culture, were abruptly abandoned without any clear explanation. There is no evidence of a large-scale invasion, nor signs of a single devastating natural disaster. Archaeologists and historians have debated the cause for decades, increasingly believing that it was not a single event, but a complex web of intertwined problems that led to their downfall. One of the leading hypotheses regarding the Maya collapse centers on climate change, specifically prolonged and severe droughts. Paleoclimate studies based on lake sediments and cave stalagmites have revealed that Central America experienced multiple intense dry periods between the 8th and 10th centuries. Some of these droughts lasted for decades and are considered among the worst in thousands of years. This had a devastating impact on agriculture, which depended almost entirely on natural rainfall. Crop failures led to famine, disease, and population decline, further weakening an already strained social structure and pushing it to the brink of collapse. In addition to environmental crises, political conflict and ongoing warfare were also major factors contributing to the collapse of the Maya civilization. The independent city-states frequently competed for power, leading to widespread and increasingly violent conflicts. Archaeological evidence from sites like Dos Pilas and Aguateca shows that many cities were destroyed and the noble class was either killed or overthrown. These continuous wars drained resources, destabilized society, and caused kings to lose their legitimacy, rendering them unable to ensure security or sustain the livelihood of their people. Alongside war and drought, population growth and environmental degradation also pushed the Maya civilization toward collapse. As urban populations increased, the Maya had to clear forests to expand farmland and build infrastructure. Excessive deforestation reduced the land's ability to retain moisture, leading to soil erosion and agricultural decline. Once fertile fields gradually became barren, and crop yields dropped significantly. Unintentionally, they created harsher environmental conditions, contributing to the very droughts that triggered a full-scale crisis. Adding to the turmoil was a loss of faith in the ruling elite and religious structure. As famines and defeats mounted, the traditional belief systems likely began to fracture. The kings, once regarded as divine mediators, were now seen as powerless. With their legitimacy, eroded political structures disintegrated. Many cities simply stopped recording events, abandoned temples, and left ceremonial centers to the jungle. However, the fall of the classic Maya cities does not mean the end of Maya civilization. Far from it. In the northern regions, particularly in Yucatan, cities like Chichen Itza and Uxmal continued to thrive for several more centuries. Even today, millions of Maya descendants live in Mexico and Central America, preserving elements of their language, customs, and identity. Still, the image of stone temples swallowed by vines, glyphs left unfinished, and bustling metropolises reduced to silence has captivated the imagination of scholars and adventurers for centuries. The suddenness of the classic Maya collapse is so striking that it has become a metaphor for lost wisdom, ecological caution, and the fragility of civilization itself. Was it nature or human error? Was it war or belief? Or was it all of these at once? The Maya left us many answers carved in stone, but also left behind one of the greatest riddles in human history. And perhaps in that mystery, they continue to live on. So what do you think was the main cause of the Maya civilization's collapse? An uncontrollable natural disaster, or was it humanity's own actions that led to their downfall? Do you believe history could repeat itself as we now face climate crises, war, and resource depletion? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might just offer a whole new way of understanding one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Long before the towering pyramids of Teotihuacan or the celestial calendars of the Maya, a shadowy civilization rose in the sweltering jungles of southern Mexico. Hidden beneath thick canopies and forgotten rivers, the Olmecs carved their legacy into stone massive heads with piercing expressions, mysterious symbols etched into tablets, and cities planned with uncanny precision. They were the first, the originators. Revered as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, the Olmecs laid the groundwork for the empires that would come after. Yet despite their brilliance, their story ends not with conquest or collapse, but with silence. No great battle, no final monument, just abandonment. What happened to the Olmecs? How could such an advanced society simply disappear? This is the enigma that haunts archaeologists and historians alike. And in the heart of that mystery lies a deeper truth, not just about a lost civilization, but about how fragile even the greatest cultures can be. Arguably the most iconic and enduring symbols of Olmec ingenuity are the colossal stone heads. Carved from basalt boulders weighing up to 40 tons, these sculptures stand over 3 meters tall and bear distinct facial features, broad noses, thick lips, and intense individualized expressions that hint at real individuals, possibly rulers or warriors. What makes these heads even more astounding is the logistics involved. The basalt used for carving them came from the Tuxtla Mountains, located over 80 kilometers away from the sites of San Lorenzo and La Venta. The transportation of such enormous stones across rivers and jungle terrain without wheels or beasts of burden suggests an incredible degree of organization, labor control, and engineering know-how. The Olmec did not live in isolated villages. Instead, they built complex urban ceremonial centers that predated other known Mesoamerican cities. San Lorenzo, flourishing around 1200 BCE, was the first of its kind. It featured extensive drainage systems, platforms, plazas, and elite residences, all arranged with intentional urban planning. Later, La Venta rose as the primary ceremonial hub, with a striking pyramid made entirely of earth, the Great Pyramid of La Venta rising above the landscape. These sites were not merely settlements, but cultural and religious focal points that showcased the Olmec's social hierarchy and cosmological beliefs. Among the earliest known examples of writing in the Americas may belong to the Olmec. The discovery of the Cascajal block, dated to around 900 BCE, revealed a set of glyphs unlike any other. While the script has not been fully deciphered, it is believed to be a true written language rather than simple iconography. In addition to writing, the Olmec may have been early developers of calendar systems and astronomical observation. Their understanding of time cycles and celestial events possibly laid the foundation for the highly developed Maya calendar and cosmology centuries later. The Olmec worldview was steeped in symbolism and a profound connection between the natural world and the divine. One of the most enduring symbols is the were-jaguar, a creature blending human and jaguar features, often interpreted as a shamanic figure or spiritual intermediary. Olmec art is filled with depictions of hybrid beings, supernatural serpents, and mythological beings associated with fertility, rain, and maize. These motifs would echo across later Mesoamerican civilizations, from the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl to the rain deity Tlaloc. Olmec artisans were masters of stonework. Besides the massive heads, they carved intricate jade figurines, ceremonial chelts, and stone altars with remarkable precision. Their tools and materials, obsidian, magnetite, serpentine, and jadeite, came from distant sources indicating extensive trade networks and an elite class with access to rare goods. They also engineered elaborate water systems, including aqueducts and underground drainage at San Lorenzo. Such feats underscore a high degree of environmental control and civic planning far ahead of its time. Despite their profound influence and clear complexity, the Olmec civilization began to decline around 400 BCE. San Lorenzo had already fallen centuries earlier, but by this time, Vineta too was abandoned. There is no clear record of widespread war or invasion, no mass graves, no destroyed temples, just a quiet disappearance. So what happened? Several theories have been proposed. Environmental change. One leading explanation is environmental degradation. The Olmec heartland was crisscrossed with rivers and wetlands, making it rich in resources but vulnerable to flooding and shifts in water systems. There's evidence of rising riverbeds and siltation, which may have led to agricultural collapse or forced communities to migrate. Resource depletion and internal strife. As population centers grew, the Olmec may have overexploited their environment, cutting down forests for construction, exhausting soil fertility, or overhunting animals essential to their diet and rituals. This, in turn, could have led to social tension, class unrest, or weakened elite authority, shifting trade and emerging powers. As neighboring groups began to rise, such as the Zapotecs in Oaxaca and early Maya in the south, the Olmec may have lost their economic dominance. Trade routes shifted, cultural power waned, and their central cities no longer held the same strategic importance. Religious transition or political upheaval. Given the deeply theocratic nature of Olmec society, the collapse of a religious ideology, whether due to natural disasters, failed rituals, or loss of legitimacy, could have triggered societal collapse. With temples no longer attended and monuments abandoned, a new way of life may have emerged unrecorded in stone. Whatever the cause, the fall of the Olmec is one of the most enigmatic collapses in ancient history. Unlike the Maya or Aztec, who left behind detailed codices and written chronicles, the Olmec left silence, leaving modern archaeologists and historians to piece together their fate from what remains buried beneath the jungle soil. Though they vanished from the map, the Olmec lived on in spirit. Later, civilizations borrowed their religious symbols, calendar concepts, artistic styles, and possibly even writing systems. The Maya, for example, revered jaguars, used similar calendar cycles, and inherited the idea of sacred kingship. The Olmec may have never built vast empires or left behind libraries of texts, but their influence permeated the very DNA of Mesoamerican culture. They were the spark that lit the fire of one of the most vibrant regions of human civilization. Their disappearance, far from erasing their legacy, has instead deepened the intrigue surrounding them. Why did they fall? Did their descendants carry their stories into new lands? What lessons lie buried within their cities, awaiting the next excavation, the next clue? What do you think? Could a society as advanced as the Olmec simply vanish without a trace? Or is it that we haven't been asking the right questions or digging deep enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which theory do you find most compelling? Let's uncover the past together. Before Achilles and the Parthenon, there was a forgotten empire of stone and fire. Long before the golden age of Athens, before marble temples crowned the Acropolis, and before Homer's epics echoed through the ages, there existed a civilization shrouded in power, splendor, and mystery. Deep in the hills of southern Greece, beneath layers of myth and time, the Mycenaean civilization rose like a storm, fierce, proud, and unstoppable. These were the first true Greek warriors who stormed Troy, kings who built palaces of stone, and scribes who carved their lives into clay. They ruled not just by sword, but through trade language and architecture that still defies belief. And then, without warning, they disappeared. Entire citadels abandoned, palaces burned. A complex society vanished, leaving behind only shattered walls and whispered legends. What brought about their sudden fall? War, earthquakes, a forgotten plague, or something more elusive, more terrifying? This is the story of a civilization that built the foundation of Greek identity only to be consumed by forces we still don't fully understand. This is the Mycenaean enigma. The Mycenaeans emerged after the decline of the earlier Minoan civilization from Crete. Taking their name from the city of Mycenae, one of their strongest citadels, these people established fortified palatial centers across the Peloponnese and central Greece. These city-states, including Pylos, Tiryns, and Thebes, were governed by warrior kings who wielded both military and religious authority. What set them apart from earlier Aegean peoples was their use of the Greek language written in the Linear B script, the earliest known form of written Greek. This alone confirms the Mycenaeans as the linguistic and cultural ancestors of the classical Greeks, linking myth and history in one ancient thread. To stand in front of the Lion Gate of Mycenae is to witness the power the Mycenaeans sought to display. Built from immense uncut boulders stacked with uncanny precision, a style now called Cyclopean masonry, these gates once guarded the heart of a citadel. According to later Greeks, only giants could have moved such stones. Inside these walls lay vast complexes of royal halls, storerooms, and temples. The elite dead were buried in monumental tholos tombs, like the treasury of Atreus, with corbelled roofs rising in perfect domes. These feats of engineering were unparalleled in Europe at the time and reflected both religious devotion and hierarchical authority. At its heart, Mycenaean society was militaristic. Palaces doubled as fortresses. Kings were warlords. Their frescoes and artifacts show chariots, bronze, armor, swords, and shields. Archaeological digs in shaft graves have uncovered helmets made from boar tusks, gold funeral masks, and ceremonial daggers, all signifying a culture where honor in battle meant divine favor in death. And it was this warrior culture that inspired the epic poems of Homer. Whether or not Agamemnon and Achilles truly lived their world was shaped from real Mycenaean custom siege, warfare, courtly rivalries, and the spoils of conquest. Far from being insular, the Mycenaeans established extensive trade networks. Their pottery has been discovered across the Levant, Anatolia, Egypt, Cyprus, and even Sicily. They exported olive oil, wine, and luxury goods in exchange for exotic materials such as ivory, gold, and glass. Their ships, though lost to time, must have crisscrossed the Aegean and beyond. Moreover, their interactions with other great powers, particularly Hittites and Egyptians, are recorded in diplomatic texts and trade inventories. In the complex web of late Bronze Age politics, Mycenae was no minor player. Beneath their warlike exterior, the Mycenaeans maintained an impressive bureaucratic system. This is evident from thousands of Linear B clay tablets, mostly found in Pylos and Knossos, which detail rations, tribute, livestock, and weapons stockpiles. The use of syllabic writing, unlike pictographs or ideograms, marked a leap toward literacy and formal record-keeping. This administrative strength enabled the centralization of power and ensured that palaces functioned as economic hubs. In effect, the palace economy controlled production, trade, and distribution, a complex system that would unravel with catastrophic consequences. Around 1200 BCE, the Mycenaean civilization, one of the most brilliant centers of power during the Bronze Age, began to collapse suddenly and mysteriously. The once imposing fortresses were set ablaze. Bustling cities were abandoned. The Linear B writing system, a sophisticated administrative tool that supported the palace economy, vanished entirely. Within just a few decades, an intricate and highly developed world fell into ruin. Greece entered a long period of obscurity, known as the Dark Ages, a time without writing, without palaces, without cities, and without kings. But why did it happen? Unlike the gradual decline of the Roman Empire or the obvious conquest of the Aztecs, the collapse of the Mycenaeans left no clear signs. It is precisely this lack of evidence that has given rise to one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Modern researchers largely agree that the fall of the Mycenaeans was caused by a combination of multiple factors, a perfect storm that led to complete systemic breakdown. One of the most prominent theories involves the appearance of the Sea People's mysterious raiders mentioned in Egyptian records who swept through coastal cities across the eastern Mediterranean. It's possible they also attacked Mycenaean fortresses. At the same time, internal unrest and civil strife are also believed to have played a role, especially as cities like Thebes show signs of destruction from within rather than from foreign invasion. Natural disasters, especially earthquakes and droughts, cannot be overlooked as they were common in the region. A series of successive natural catastrophes may have critically weakened agriculture, leading to famine and instability. Additionally, the collapse of international trade networks, which had sustained the palace-based economy, likely caused the entire economic system, heavily reliant on central control, to implode. Finally, when the palace's centers of administration and record-keeping were destroyed, writing disappeared, and with it, the entire economic and managerial structure unraveled. A civilization once rich in organization, art, warfare, and commerce was silenced and erased from the map with barely a whisper. Despite their disappearance, the Mycenaeans cast a long shadow. When later Greeks wrote of gods, heroes, and wars, they drew on echoes of the Mycenaean past. Even the Parthenon's architects looked back in awe at their Bronze Age forebears. In modern times, their rediscovery in the 19th century by Heinrich Schliemann, who uncovered the ruins of Mycenae and Troy, helped legitimize the idea that legends like the Iliad had historical roots. Gold masks, warrior graves, and palace ruins revealed a world far more complex than mere myth. Today, we still gaze at their ruins and wonder, how could such a powerful culture fall so completely? Why did they leave so little behind? What secrets are still buried beneath the hills of Greece? The story of the Mycenaean civilization is one of glory and ruin. From their mighty citadels to their sudden extinction, they stand as both inspiration and warning. They remind us how interconnected ancient societies were, and how fragile civilizations can be when their foundations crack. We remember them not just for what they built, but for the questions they left behind. So, what do you think truly caused the complete collapse of the Mycenaean civilization, with its fortified citadels, advanced administrative system, and vast trade networks in just a few decades? Which theory do you lean toward: natural disasters, war, internal rebellion, or something no one has considered yet? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Who knows, maybe your perspective could help unlock a new explanation for one of the greatest mysteries in ancient Greek history. Beneath the blazing sun and crimson cliffs of southern Jordan lies a city that seems born from myth rather than history. Petra, the rose-red city, half as old as time, rises from the sandstone like a mirage, its temples and tombs carved with divine precision into towering canyon walls. But these breathtaking facades are more than just artistic marvels. They are silent witnesses to a vanished world. The architects of Petra were the Nabateans, a mysterious desert people who defied nature-mastered trade and turned inhospitable wastelands into thriving cultural hubs. They left no sprawling empire, no military conquest, no written chronicles of their rise. And yet for centuries, they commanded the crossroads of civilizations, and then just as suddenly, they disappeared. Who were these shadowy builders of stone? How did they rise to such wealth and power in one of the harshest environments on Earth? And what unseen force led their legacy to be swallowed by sand and silence? The story of the Nabateans is not only a journey into ancient ingenuity, but a haunting mystery that still echoes through the canyons of Petra today. The Nabateans first emerged around the 4th century BCE, likely as nomadic Arab tribes who settled in the harsh terrains of the Arabian desert. At first glance, their homeland seemed ill-suited for building an empire. Searing heat, limited rainfall, and rugged mountains made survival difficult. But the Nabateans turned adversity into strength. They quickly established themselves as masters of the terrain, developing complex irrigation systems, hidden trade routes, and fortified cities camouflaged within natural landscapes. Their most iconic creation, Petra, is a testament to their ingenuity. Petra was not merely a city, it was a symbol. Nestled between sandstone cliffs, its architecture was more than just practical. It was poetic. Structures like Al-Khazneh, the treasury, and Ad-Dair, the monastery, were hewn directly into rock walls, showcasing an architectural blend of Hellenistic grace and native flair. Corinthian columns flanked temple entrances, intricate carvings depicted celestial motifs, and facades rose like stage curtains out of the canyon. Every crevice of the city whispered of sacred geometry, cultural syncretism, and a civilization that both admired and rivaled the empires surrounding it. But what made the Nabateans truly exceptional was not just what they built, but how they sustained it. Despite being surrounded by arid desert, they mastered water management with astonishing skill. Using a combination of rock-cut channels, underground cisterns, ceramic piping, and dams, they captured seasonal rains and stored them year-round. This allowed them to transform inhospitable land into a thriving urban center with gardens, markets, and even bathhouses. Water was not only a necessity, it was a source of political power and a symbol of their technological superiority. This control over water, paired with their monopoly over desert trade routes, made the Nabateans immensely wealthy. By the 1st century BCE, they dominated the incense and spice trade that linked Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean. Frankincense, myrrh, pepper silk, precious stones all passed through Nabatean hands. Their cities, including Petra and Hegra, modern Madain Saleh in Saudi Arabia, became hubs of cultural and commercial exchange. Inscriptions reveal a society that engaged with Aramaic, Greek, and Latin speakers, and their architecture reflects this cosmopolitanism. Even at the height of their prosperity, with Petra shining as a gem in the desert, the Nabateans remain one of history's great enigmas. Unlike powerful empires such as Rome or Persia, they did not pursue territorial expansion, did not build large standing armies, nor did they leave behind grand declarations carved into stone. Instead, they chose to live in harmony with nature, using intelligence and finesse to control trade rather than force. This very humility makes their disappearance all the more puzzling. There was no war, no rebellion, just a civilization quietly fading into the shadows. In the year 106, CE Nabatea was annexed peacefully by the Roman Empire, becoming the province of Arabia Petraea. There was no fighting, no resistance. The transition was so smooth that some historians believe it resulted from mutual agreement, or perhaps from the death of the last Nabatean king, Rabel II Sota, who left no strong successor. Another theory suggests that the Romans had gradually infiltrated the Nabatean trade networks and economic relationships, slowly weakening the ruling elite from within. Whatever the cause, this collapse was not loud. It was a disappearance so gentle, it's almost unbelievable. Following the annexation, the overland trade routes, the lifeblood of the Nabateans, were gradually replaced by Roman-developed maritime commerce. Without the thriving flow of goods, cities like Petra lost their vitality. The economy shrank, and investment in infrastructure, especially the elaborate water systems, waned over time. Powerful earthquakes in the 4th and 6th centuries further devastated the already declining city. As the water stopped flowing, so did life. And in the end, the desert sands silently reclaimed what remained, as if to bury the story of a civilization that once flourished in brilliance. By the time European explorers stumbled upon Petra in the 19th century, the Nabateans were little more than a legend. The city's facades had survived, but the stories behind them had crumbled. The language once carved on tombs and temples was largely undeciphered, their religion forgotten, and their customs buried in silence. Today, scholars continue to piece together the Nabatean puzzle through archaeology inscriptions and comparative studies, but vast gaps remain. The mystery deepens when one considers the cultural resilience of the Nabateans. Unlike other desert peoples, they embraced urbanity, art, and science. They innovated, adapted, and thrived without colonizing others. Yet their knowledge systems, unlike Greek or Egyptian counterparts, left no vast libraries or treatises. Their legacy exists more in stone than scrolls. Why did such a clever and adaptable people not preserve their memory more deliberately? Or perhaps they did, and we simply haven't found it yet. In a way, the Nabateans remain true to their desert roots, quiet, elusive, and fiercely self-reliant. Their civilization didn't crash, it faded like a mirage. Petra's grandeur still stands not as a ruin of conquest, but as a memory of subtle brilliance. It whispers of a people who mastered nature, balanced wealth and humility, and vanished without bitterness. The world may have forgotten them, but the rocks remember. And as the desert winds continue to brush the carved walls of Petra, one can't help but wonder what else lies buried beneath the sands. What wisdom did the Nabateans take with them when they chose to disappear? If the Nabatean civilization wasn't conquered through war, did they voluntarily retreat? Or is there something history has yet to reveal? Do you think their disappearance was caused by natural disasters, economic decline, or was it a deliberate choice to merge into a larger empire? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective might just help shed light on one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. Buried beneath the waves or locked in the folds of myth, Atlantis remains the greatest riddle of our ancient past. It is not just a story, but a haunting echo that calls to explorers, scholars, and dreamers alike. First told by the Greek philosopher Plato over 200-300 years ago, the tale of a majestic island empire, richer than any known land, more advanced than any ancient civilization, has persisted for millennia without a single confirmed trace. According to Plato's Timaeus and Critias, Atlantis was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. There, a mighty people lived in splendor and power, until the day everything vanished. In a single night, the sea swallowed them whole. Was it a warning, a memory of something real, or a myth that refuses to die because it touches something deeply human? Our fascination with glory, with hubris, and with what waits beneath the surface of both ocean and mind. Among hundreds of ancient legends, Atlantis stands out, not only for the grandeur described by Plato, but also for the profound message it carries. This was no ordinary kingdom. It was a civilization that excelled in every aspect, wealth, sophistication, and advancement far beyond its time. The central city was built in concentric circles, interlaced with canals, surrounded by massive walls and structures made of rare metals, especially orichalcum, a mythical metal said to glow in the light of sunset. Its powerful navy, advanced agriculture, astronomical knowledge, and architectural expertise were believed to surpass all contemporary cultures. Yet this very prosperity became the seed of its downfall. The Atlanteans gradually grew arrogant, strayed from morality, and sought to expand their dominance through war. They even declared war on ancient Athens, and according to Plato, that was the moment the wheel of their demise began to turn. An empire once thought invincible had stepped onto the path of destruction by its own pride. Nothing in the legend of Atlantis is more haunting than the ending described by Plato. In a single day and night of misfortune, Atlantis disappeared beneath the sea. A civilization once radiant and prosperous was reduced to swirling black waves. It is this sudden collapse that lies at the heart of countless debates and mysteries. Was it merely a philosophical allegory or a distorted memory of a real catastrophe that buried an entire empire? Some believe it reflects a massive volcanic eruption like that of Thera, triggering devastating tsunamis. Others suggest earthquakes or sudden tectonic shifts that dragged the city under. Whatever the theory, one truth remains: Atlantis did not fall to war, but to nature, sudden, violent, and unforgiving. A proud empire was swept away without warning, serving as a chilling reminder that nothing stands against the raw power of the earth. One of the most popular and extensively studied theories suggests that the legend of Atlantis is actually a faded memory of the Santorini-Thera volcanic disaster in the Aegean Sea. Around 1600 BCE, the eruption there was one of the largest in recorded history, triggering massive tsunamis that swept across the Mediterranean and contributed to the collapse of the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete. The stratified ruins of Santorini, featuring concentric architecture canals and evidence of advanced urban planning, have led many researchers to believe that this could be the real-life version of Atlantis that Plato heard about through generations of oral tradition. However, not everyone agrees. Some researchers argue that Atlantis lies beneath the Atlantic Ocean, near the Azores Islands, a region known for volcanic landscapes and submerged continental shelves. Others believe the city might be buried under Antarctic ice, or submerged in still unexplored waters off the coasts of the Americas. The absence of definitive archaeological evidence to this day only deepens the allure and mystery surrounding Atlantis. The very notion that a thriving civilization could vanish without a trace is both terrifying and strangely alluring. It forces us to confront unsettling questions. How much of history is lost to time? Are we ourselves immune to such fates? Or does Atlantis serve as a cautionary tale for our own ambitions? The suddenness of its destruction reminds us of the awesome and unpredictable power of nature, a power capable of overturning the mightiest empires in moments. Earthquakes, floods, and volcanic eruptions have all reshaped human history countless times, and Atlantis may be the ultimate allegory of these forces in action. Furthermore, the symbolic weight of Atlantis's collapse goes beyond physical disaster. It reflects a deeper truth about civilizations, that moral decay, hubris, and unchecked expansion can lead to their undoing. In this way, Plato's tale transcends its mythical shell to offer a timeless lesson. Atlantis, whether real or not, becomes a mirror through which we examine ourselves. How many empires have risen with dreams of eternity, only to fall victim to their own excesses. The fascination with Atlantis has permeated every corner of modern culture, from literature and film to video games and conspiracy theories. It's been portrayed as a futuristic city, powered by alien technology, as a utopia of peace and harmony, and as a dark secret hidden by global elites. These interpretations, while fantastical, highlight our deep yearning for mystery, for lost truths, and for connections to a forgotten past that might explain who we really are. Some see Atlantis not as a literal place, but as a psychological archetype, a symbol of perfection, lost of knowledge buried, and of the fragile balance between man and nature. The idea that beneath the ocean lies a once great civilization speaks to our fear of erasure and our desire for permanence. In a world of rising seas and environmental instability, the Atlantis myth feels more relevant than ever. Could we too become a lost chapter, submerged and speculated upon by future generations? Archaeologists, historians, and geologists continue to search, hoping to uncover evidence of a sunken city that could match Plato's description. Despite the lack of concrete proof, each new discovery of submerged ruins from the coasts of India to the Caribbean rekindles hope that Atlantis may have existed in some form. Still, perhaps the true power of Atlantis lies not in its physical remains, but in the questions it forces us to ask about human history, resilience, and humility. Ultimately, Atlantis remains an enduring enigma, a city that may never have existed and yet lives in the collective memory of humanity as if it always had. Its rise and sudden collapse serve as a parable of pride and punishment, brilliance and blindness. Whether buried beneath waves or rooted in allegory, Atlantis continues to whisper to us from the depths, reminding us that no civilization, no matter how great, is ever truly invincible. What about you? What do you think about the mystery of Atlantis? Was it merely a legend invented by Plato, or could there truly have been an advanced civilization that sank beneath the waves? Do you lean toward the Santorini theory, the Azores, or perhaps another location that remains undiscovered? Share your thoughts in the comments. Who knows, maybe you'll add a new piece to this 2,000-year-old puzzle. They mastered the sea long before the Greeks. They built palaces with running water while much of Europe was still in the Stone Age. They painted vibrant frescoes of dancing priestesses and bull lepers in a world seemingly untouched by war. For over 1,000 years, the Minoans of Crete thrived as one of the most advanced and peaceful civilizations of the ancient world. But then, without warning, they vanished. No final battle, no conquering army, only silence and ruins buried beneath ash and salt. What happened to this brilliant society? Why did they disappear so suddenly from history? Many believe the answer lies beneath the waves of the Aegean Sea, triggered by one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions Earth has ever seen, Thera. A blast so cataclysmic it may have shattered their cities, drowned their coasts, and echoed through the myths of Atlantis. This is not just the story of a civilization. It's the story of how nature can erase even the greatest achievements of humankind in a single, unforgettable moment. The Minoans emerged around 3000 BCE during the early Bronze Age on the island of Crete, strategically located at the crossroads of Africa, Asia, and Europe. This prime position allowed them to become one of the earliest maritime powers in human history. They established bustling trade routes across the Mediterranean, exchanging goods, ideas, and technology with Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Aegean world. Their capital, Knossos, was a marvel of urban planning and engineering. Massive palace complexes dotted the island: Knossos, Phaistos, Malea, Zakros, each a center of political, religious, and economic life. These structures weren't just grand, they were intricate, featuring hundreds of rooms, elaborate frescoes, underground storerooms, plumbing systems, and even multi-story staircases. The palaces had no fortifications, a testament to the relative peace and security they enjoyed for centuries. Unlike other contemporary civilizations, where war and conquest were glorified, the Minoans seemed to celebrate life. Their frescoes depicted athletic young men and women in vibrant colors, leaping over bulls in ceremonial games, dancing in festivals, and engaging in religious rites. Nature was a central theme. Dolphins, birds, flowers, and marine life adorned their walls. Religion played a vital role. The Minoans worshipped a variety of deities, with many scholars believing a mother goddess or snake goddess held a central place in their pantheon. Female figures dominate their art, suggesting a matriarchal, or at least gender-balanced society. Priestesses appear frequently in rituals implying a significant role for women in spiritual and possibly political life. The Minoans developed writing systems to manage their complex economy and administration. The earliest of these Cretan hieroglyphs evolved into the more sophisticated Linear A script. Unfortunately, Linear A remains undeciphered to this day. As a result, much of what we know about Minoan life comes not from their own words, but from the material evidence they left behind. This linguistic mystery has become one of the greatest barriers to fully understanding Minoan society. Without deciphering their script, we can't read their laws, myths, or literature. The Minoans remain in a sense silent to us, watching from history's shadows. Then, around 1450 BCE, everything changed. The great palaces were abandoned or destroyed. Minoan trade ceased. Their influence faded. What could bring down such an advanced civilization? One prevailing theory centers on a cataclysmic natural disaster, the eruption of the volcano on the island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, located about 110 kilometers north of Crete. This eruption is believed to have been one of the largest in recorded history, possibly 4 to 5 times more powerful than Krakatoa in 1883. The explosion ejected millions of tons of ash into the atmosphere, darkening skies and disrupting climate patterns across the eastern Mediterranean. But the real devastation may have come in the form of gigantic tsunamis, possibly over 10 meters high, that slammed into the northern shores of Crete. Settlements along the coast were obliterated. Ports vanished. Fields were flooded with salt water, rendering agriculture unsustainable. While the palaces of central Crete may have escaped the waves directly, the societal shock, economic collapse, and environmental damage that followed were likely fatal blows. Following the eruption, the archaeological record shows a dramatic shift. Many of the major Minoan sites were either destroyed or never rebuilt. The Minoans, once dominant, became shadows on their own island. Within a few decades, the Mycenaeans, Greek-speaking warriors from the mainland, took control of Crete. They repurposed Minoan palaces and adopted elements of their culture, but the unique Minoan identity was lost. The disappearance was not necessarily immediate, but it was irreversible. The final Minoan strongholds lingered for a century or so before vanishing completely from history. Unlike other empires that fell in battle or faded slowly through decline, the Minoans seem to have been struck down by nature itself, their legacy buried beneath layers of ash, rubble, and salt. The dramatic nature of the Thera eruption and the destruction it wrought has led some scholars and writers to draw parallels with the legend of Atlantis as told by Plato. In his dialogues, Plato describes a great and advanced island civilization that was destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune, swallowed by the sea. Though there is no conclusive evidence linking Atlantis to the Minoans, the similarities are compelling: an island people with incredible architecture, a peaceful way of life, and sudden destruction by natural catastrophe. Whether fact or coincidence, the Minoans have become central to one of history's most enduring myths. Despite over a century of excavation and research, many questions remain. Was the Thera eruption solely responsible for their collapse? Or were there other factors at play, such as internal social unrest, invasion, or climate change? Could the Minoans have recovered, if not for the wave of Mycenaean conquest that followed? And most tantalizing of all, what would their own voices have told us? Without a translation of Linear A, we may never know how they viewed their gods, their world, or their fate. Their story remains incomplete, a grand civilization, silenced not only by the sea, but by the passage of time. Yet the Minoans are not entirely lost. Their art continues to inspire. Their architecture influenced the classical Greek world. Their maritime spirit lives on in the cultures of the Aegean. Modern archaeologists, linguists, and historians continue the quest to understand them, piece by piece. And in every wave that laps the shores of Crete, in every fragment of fresco recovered from the ruins, in every symbol etched into ancient clay tablets, the Minoans whisper their secrets, waiting to be heard once more. What do you think really happened to the Minoans? Was it truly the wrath of nature, an unstoppable force that erased a peaceful civilization overnight? Or is there still a missing piece to this ancient puzzle? Something we've yet to uncover beneath the ruins of Crete or the ashes of Thera. Let us know what theory you believe in the most. And if you had the chance to send one question back in time to the Minoans, what would you ask them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're reading every single one. History isn't just about the past. It's a conversation we carry into the future. High above the scorching deserts and shadowed canyons of the American Southwest, the remnants of a lost world cling to the cliffs like ghosts. Vast stone dwellings carved into sheer rock faces, roads that lead nowhere, petroglyphs that speak in forgotten tongues. These are the silent echoes of the Ancestral Puebloans, a civilization that flourished in isolation, mastered the harshest of landscapes, and then without warning, disappeared. Once called the Anasazi, their true name remains a mystery, as do many chapters of their story. Who were these master builders? How did they thrive where others would perish? And why did they abandon their great cities, leaving behind only stone and speculation? Their story is not just one of survival, it's a puzzle of human ingenuity, cosmic alignment, and a collapse that still defies explanation. Around 2,000 years ago, the Ancestral Puebloans gradually emerged from early hunter-gatherer groups in what is now known as the Four Corners region, where Utah, Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico meet. Over time, especially by the 10th and 11th centuries, they reached an exceptional level of architectural and social development. Large villages were built with hundreds of interconnected rooms, such as Pueblo Bonito in Chaco Canyon, a structure that could rise up to 5 stories and once housed hundreds of people. But perhaps most awe-inspiring were the cliffside dwellings, like Cliff Palace in Mesa Verde, perched precariously along sheer rock ledges and accessible only by wooden ladders and handholds carved into the stone. These homes were not merely places of residence. They were social centers with plazas, granaries, watchtowers, and especially kivas, circular underground chambers used for spiritual ceremonies. The fact that these structures were aligned with solar and lunar cycles reveals their deep knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and community organization, far beyond what one might expect from a prehistoric society living in the desert. Surviving in the desert was no accident. The Ancestral Puebloans developed ingenious agricultural techniques, including dry farming, water harvesting, and check dams to trap precious rainfall. They grew corn beans and squash in harsh alkaline soils and cultivated cotton and sunflowers for clothing and oil. Their ability to thrive in such an environment showed both innovation and resilience. They also constructed an expansive road system with carefully straightened paths stretching dozens of miles across the desert floor, likely for trade pilgrimage and ceremonial purposes. These roads connected outlying villages to major centers like Chaco Canyon, suggesting a high degree of coordination across the region. Art was more than decoration. It was a spiritual language. Across the southwest, petroglyphs and pictographs cover canyon walls depicting animal spirals, celestial symbols, and human figures. These images, still not fully understood, may have represented spiritual beliefs, migration stories, or astronomical knowledge. Inside Cuba's ceremonial rituals linked the Puebloans to the underworld sky world and cycles of nature. The architecture of these sacred chambers often reflected cosmological principles, reinforcing a worldview deeply rooted in nature, time, and the ancestors. Despite their isolated terrain, the Ancestral Puebloans were anything but cut off. Archaeologists have uncovered items from across the continent, macaws and copper bells from Mesoamerica, turquoise jewelry, obsidian tools, and coastal seashells, all suggesting long-distance trade and contact with distant cultures. This exchange wasn't just about goods, it was about ideas. Agricultural techniques, architectural styles, and religious symbols flowed along these networks, contributing to the dynamic cultural evolution of the Puebloan world. By the end of the 13th century, something astonishing occurred. Major centers, such as Chaco Canyon, Mesa Verde, and Cayenta, once the beating heart of the Ancestral Puebloan civilization, were suddenly abandoned. Cliffs that once echoed with prayers, rituals, and the rhythm of communal life were now engulfed in absolute silence. Solid stone dwellings that had housed countless generations became nothing more than hollow shells of a vanished world, leaving behind a mystery that continues to haunt archaeologists today. What could have caused such a resilient civilization, one that had survived for centuries in a desert environment, to collapse so abruptly? The most widely accepted theory points to a severe drought that struck in the late 1200s. Tree ring analyses from the period reveal a series of extremely dry years, conditions so harsh that agriculture became virtually impossible. As crops failed, food stores dwindled, and water sources dried up, communities may have faced prolonged famine. Still, as dire as the drought was, it cannot fully explain the widespread and simultaneous abandonment across such a vast region. Many researchers also highlight factors like overpopulation, resource exhaustion, and long-building social tensions. A society heavily dependent on agriculture and rapidly expanding may have exceeded its ecological limits. Archaeological evidence points to rising violence, burned dwellings, human remains bearing trauma, suggesting the outbreak of internal conflict or competition for dwindling resources. Some sites even show signs of defensive walls, an unusual feature in earlier periods. Beyond material concerns, scholars also suggest a spiritual and ideological crisis. During such hard times, the religious elite at centers like Chaco Canyon may have lost their legitimacy, leading to a breakdown in social cohesion. People may have abandoned old ways in search of new belief systems, or migrated following visions, rituals, or ancestral instructions, traditions still preserved in the oral histories of modern native communities. While no single cause can be confirmed with certainty, one truth remains clear: the Ancestral Puebloans did not vanish. They migrated and were reborn in today's modern Pueblo communities, such as the Hopi Zuni Acoma and Taos. Their ancestral legends, sacred rituals, Kiva architecture, and philosophy of harmony with nature endure in these cultures to this day. These communities serve as a living bridge between the present and an ancient civilization, one that once flourished in the heart of the desert and now lives on in humanity's collective memory. Today, the ruins of the Ancestral Puebloans are protected within national parks and UNESCO World Heritage Sites, visited by millions and studied by scholars worldwide. Yet for all the research, their story remains tantalizingly incomplete. Why did they build so high into the cliffs? What do the spirals and symbols carved into stone truly mean? Why did they abandon their greatest cities at the height of their power? The silence of the canyons offers no clear answer, only wind dust and the enduring presence of stone. The mystery of the Ancestral Puebloans is not merely one of disappearance, but of resilience. They adapted, endured, and left behind a legacy that still shapes the identity of indigenous peoples in the American Southwest. They remind us that civilizations are not measured only by their rise and fall, but by the echoes they leave in the land and the stories that still live on. What do you think truly caused a resilient civilization like the Ancestral Puebloans to abandon everything? Was it drought warfare, a spiritual crisis, or something deeper that we still don't understand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Who knows, your perspective might help unlock part of a mystery that has lasted for centuries. Deep beneath the dark blue waters of the Caribbean Sea, not far from Cuba's western coast, lies something that seemingly shouldn't exist, a colossal, mysterious structure that doesn't belong to our time. Not a shipwreck, not a coral reef, but massive stone blocks, square, aligned and unmoving, resting silently hundreds of meters below the surface like remnants of an ancient city long forgotten. Discovered in the early 2000s, the site quickly ignited a firestorm of debate. Could this be evidence of a lost civilization, one that existed more than 10,000 years ago? If true, it would shake the foundations of everything we think we know about human history and raise a haunting question. How many other civilizations might have once flourished and vanished without a trace, buried forever in the deep sea where sunlight cannot reach? The story began in the early 2000s when Russian-Canadian engineer Paulina Zalitsky, along with her husband engineer Paul Weinsweig, conducted a seafloor survey off the western coast of Cuba under authorization from the Cuban government. Their original objective was to locate shipwrecks and map the ocean floor using high-resolution sonar equipment developed by their company, Advanced Digital Communications (ADC). However, during data collection, they encountered a series of unexpected sonar signals at depths between 600 and 700 meters. The images revealed massive stone blocks with clear square and rectangular shapes, and even structures resembling pyramids. Some blocks stretched for tens of meters, aligned in rows or stacked in layers as if deliberately constructed by human hands. Though the images were grainy, the geometry was unmistakably defined, exceeding what one would expect from random natural formations. This discovery immediately raised a profound and controversial question. Could the depths of the sea be concealing the ruins of an ancient city, a once flourishing civilization, now buried forever beneath the ocean? What truly astonished scientists and the media wasn't just the shapes of the stone blocks, but their remarkable scale and unusually orderly arrangement on the ocean floor. Some of the blocks stretched up to 200 meters long, with nearly perfect right angles, something rarely seen in natural geological formations. Many appeared stacked like steps or formed continuous corridors. In some areas, there were segments that resembled paved roads running straight across the seabed. This precision and magnitude left many archaeologists excited, suggesting that this might very well be the remains of an ancient civilization that once thrived only to be buried by nature and nearly erased from human memory. Although the sonar images were impressive on their own, what truly ignited a long-standing debate among scientists was the estimated age of the site. Based on the research team's initial analysis, for such a vast cluster of structures to now lie more than 700 meters beneath current sea level, the area must have been submerged since the end of the last ice age, at least 10,000 years ago. At that time, global sea levels were 100 to 120 meters lower because much of Earth's water was still locked in massive glaciers at the poles. As global temperatures rose, the melting of these glaciers caused sea levels to rise rapidly, drowning large stretches of coastal land, including the region off western Cuba. If the stone blocks beneath the Cuban seafloor are indeed man-made, then they must have been built before the sea level rise, which places their construction before 8000 BCE. That would mean the civilization responsible for these structures must have existed in the late Paleolithic era, long before any officially recognized civilizations in recorded history. Ancient Egypt didn't emerge until around 3100 BCE, and Mesopotamia, often considered the cradle of civilization, only began developing urban centers around 4000–5000 BCE. This not only raises serious questions about the existence of an advanced prehistoric society, but also challenges the entire linear model of human history, which holds that cities only began to form after the development of agriculture, writing, and organized states. How could a community from such an ancient time, when most humans still survived by hunting and gathering, have built massive structures beneath what is now deep ocean, and then vanished without leaving a trace? If this question were ever answered with concrete evidence, it would not merely reshape our view of the past, it would force humanity to rewrite the very first chapter of its own story of civilization. Although the discovery drew widespread attention, it also faced sharp skepticism from the mainstream scientific community. Many geologists and traditional archaeologists argued that sonar imagery can be misleading, especially in the dynamic and uneven environment of the ocean floor. The square and regular-looking stone blocks, they claimed, could simply be the result of natural geological fracturing or erosion patterns common in limestone formations, which often create sharp-edged block-like shapes naturally. Some even drew comparisons to Yonaguni in Japan, where similar underwater formations that once appeared pyramid-like were later explained as natural rock formations. Another major obstacle is that no direct survey or physical sampling of the site has been publicly documented. Due to the extreme depth and high cost of such operations, all current theories remain speculative, leaving this mystery suspended in the gray zone between science and legend. Since its discovery, the sunken city off the coast of Cuba has often been compared to Atlantis, the legendary civilization described by Plato as having been swallowed by the sea after a global catastrophe. While there is no direct evidence linking this site to Atlantis, the idea of a highly advanced, prehistoric society wiped out by climate change or a great flood continues to stir the imagination. Some theories also associate the area with other mythical lost lands like Mu or Lemuria, said to have once existed in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. Although no archaeological proof has ever confirmed these civilizations, the allure of the deep-sea structures off Cuba remains strong, precisely because of their enigmatic and unexplained nature. To this day, the mystery of Cuba's submerged structures remains unsolved. But one thing is clear: if these formations are proven to be artificial, this site could rewrite the entire story of human development. It would suggest that civilizations existed far earlier than we've ever believed, and more hauntingly, it would force us to ask how many other civilizations once rose, only to be swept away forever by the ocean and forgotten by time. If a civilization truly existed thousands of years before ancient Egypt, swallowed by the sea and forgotten in darkness, how much of human history do we really know? Are the structures beneath the Cuban seafloor evidence of a lost chapter, or just nature's illusion playing tricks on our eyes? What do you think about the possibility of a 10,000-year-old city hidden beneath the ocean? Share your thoughts in the comments. Could this be the greatest unsolved mystery of our time, or just a legend born from sonar illusions? What if everything we know about the invention of electricity is wrong? Buried beneath the sands of ancient Mesopotamia, a humble clay jar lay forgotten for over 2 millennia. But when it was unearthed in 1938 near Baghdad, what archaeologists discovered inside would ignite one of the most mind-bending debates in modern history. This wasn't just a pot, it was a device housing a copper tube and an iron rod sealed with bitumen. To the untrained eye, it meant nothing. But to scientists and electrical engineers, it resembled something shockingly familiar: a battery. How could such a complex electrical structure exist 1,800 years before the modern discovery of electricity? Was it a coincidence, or proof that ancient people had tapped into a force we thought they never knew? This is the story of the Baghdad Battery, an artifact that defies the timeline of technology and dares us to rethink what ancient civilizations were truly capable of. At first glance, the Baghdad Battery looks unassuming. It's a small clay jar, roughly 13 to 15 centimeters tall, with a narrow neck and sealed top. But its internal structure is what makes it so fascinating and controversial. When disassembled, the artifact reveals 3 key components. A clay vessel. This serves as the outer casing, much like the body of a modern battery. A copper cylinder rolled into a tight tube and sealed at one end with a copper disc, it fits snugly inside the jar. It's held in place using an asphalt-like substance, which also insulates it from the outer jar. An iron rod, positioned within the copper tube and held in place using the same insulating material. This iron element is partially corroded, suggesting chemical reactions may have occurred. This configuration closely mirrors the basic structure of a galvanic cell, the earliest form of a battery. In modern terms, it's essentially a primitive electrochemical cell capable, under the right conditions, of generating an electric current. Experiments conducted in the 20th century confirmed this possibility. When replicas of the Baghdad Battery were filled with vinegar, lemon juice, or grape juice liquids that act as mild acids, they produced voltages ranging from 0.5 to 1 volt. While that might not sound like much, it's more than enough to power a small device, or perhaps to facilitate electroplating, the process of coating one metal with another using electricity. The Baghdad Battery is believed to date back to between 250 BCE and 224 CE, during the time of the Parthian Empire, a Persian dynasty that controlled a vast region stretching across modern-day Iran and Iraq. This predates the official discovery of electricity by over 1,800 years. Imagine the implications. If this object was intentionally designed to generate electricity, it would mean that ancient civilizations had discovered one of the most foundational principles of modern technology long before Benjamin Franklin flew his kite, or Alessandro Volta created the first true battery. This is where the mystery deepens. What would ancient people do with a low-voltage power source? 3 main theories have emerged over the decades. Electroplating. Some suggest that the battery was used to electroplate gold or silver onto other metals. A few ancient artifacts have been found with a thin layer of precious metal that seems too uniform to have been applied manually. Could this technique have involved electricity, medical or religious purposes? It's been hypothesized that the battery might have been used in healing rituals, possibly to deliver mild electric shocks as a form of therapy. Alternatively, the slight tingling sensation caused by contact with electric current may have been interpreted as divine in religious ceremonies, just a storage jar. The most conservative theory posits that the Baghdad Battery is not a battery at all, but simply a container, perhaps, for scrolls, sacred relics, or scrolls. The copper and iron may have been coincidental, not functional. Still, none of these explanations is entirely satisfying. No documentation has been found detailing how to use the object, and no definitive traces of electroplating techniques have been directly linked to this battery. The Baghdad Battery sits at the intersection of archaeology and speculation. Mainstream archaeologists urge caution, emphasizing the lack of contextual evidence. There is no clear written record describing how the device was used, or even acknowledging that electricity was known to these cultures. On the other hand, experimental archaeologists and alternative historians argue that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. They see the Baghdad Battery as a relic from a forgotten chapter of technological ingenuity. They point to how many ancient text structures and artifacts suggest knowledge that seems out of place for their time. For instance, could the ancient Egyptians have powered some kind of light source inside the deep tunnels of the pyramids? Could other out-of-place artifacts, like the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient analog computer, and the Dendera light, a curious relief showing what looks like a giant light bulb, be clues to a broader, more advanced understanding? To many, the Baghdad Battery has transcended its status as a single object and become a symbol of ancient ingenuity or perhaps forgotten science. Its story has been featured in documentaries, TV shows like Ancient Aliens, and countless YouTube theories. While some of these portrayals are exaggerated or speculative, they reflect a growing public fascination with the idea that history may not be as linear as we once believed. Could civilizations rise, develop technology, and then fall, leaving behind fragments that baffle future generations? If the Baghdad Battery truly was used as a source of electricity, then our understanding of technological progress needs a serious update. Skeptics argue that even if the Baghdad Battery can produce electricity, it doesn't mean it was meant to. Just because a combination of materials creates a reaction doesn't mean ancient people were aware of it or used it intentionally. But others counter that the specificity of the design, a central iron rod encased in copper, insulated with bitumen, suggests deliberate planning. It's not a random arrangement. It's not likely the result of happenstance. This line of thinking leads to a compelling thought experiment. If you buried a modern AA battery in the ground and someone uncovered it 2,000 years later without context, would they immediately understand its purpose? Probably not. Whether or not the Baghdad Battery was used for electricity, it challenges us to look at ancient cultures through a different lens. These were not primitive societies groping blindly in the dark. They were intelligent, observant, experimental, and perhaps more technologically sophisticated than we give them credit for. The artifact encourages us to ask bolder questions. What other discoveries have been forgotten, buried, or dismissed? What do we lose when we assume that the past was simple? In museums, the Baghdad Battery sits quietly behind glass, its function officially listed as unknown. But in the minds of those who dare to imagine, it's alive with possibility. A relic from a forgotten experiment, a device centuries ahead of its time, or perhaps just a misinterpreted curiosity. We may never know for sure, but the intrigue it sparks continues to inspire scientists, inventors, and dreamers around the world. What do you think? Was the Baghdad Battery a true leap into the electrical age thousands of years ahead of schedule? Or are we simply seeing what we want to see in an ancient jar? Let us know your thoughts below. Do you believe ancient civilizations understood electricity, or is this just a strange accident of history? Deep in the heart of the Pacific, on a remote volcanic island carved by wind and time, lies a secret no one has cracked. Among the towering stone statues of Easter Island, silent sentinels of a forgotten past, rest weathered wooden tablets covered in mysterious glyphs. This is Rongorongo, a script so alien, so unique, that it may represent one of the few writing systems in human history born entirely in isolation. For over 150 years, it has resisted every attempt at decipherment. No Rosetta Stone, no translations, just rows of cryptic symbols, whispering stories we may never understand. What power did these signs once hold? Who could read them, and why was the knowledge lost? Rongorongo isn't just a linguistic puzzle, it's a doorway into a vanished world. And it may be the last great script still holding its secrets. The mystery of Rongorongo begins with its setting. Easter Island lies in the southeastern Pacific Ocean, over 2,000 miles from the nearest continental landmass. Despite its isolation, the Rapa Nui civilization developed impressive megalithic architecture, famously represented by the giant moai statues. But alongside these stone colossi, archaeologists discovered something far more fragile, yet possibly more significant: wooden tablets inscribed with flowing curvilinear symbols, glyphs that twist and turn in complex sequences, unlike any known writing system elsewhere in Polynesia. These inscriptions, collectively known as the Rongorongo script, were first brought to the attention of the outside world in the 19th century by missionaries and colonial administrators. They sparked instant curiosity, but that curiosity has yet to yield comprehension. One of the script's most striking features is its unique reverse boustrophedon style. This method requires the reader to read one line from left to right, then rotate the tablet 180 degrees to read the next line, continuing this rotation for each subsequent line. This alternating orientation is exceedingly rare in world writing systems and has only added to the difficulty of interpretation. Even the direction in which the script was meant to be read is debated, as many of the surviving artifacts are damaged or incomplete. But what has truly baffled researchers for generations is that no one has been able to definitively decipher Rongorongo. Despite numerous efforts, the meanings of the glyphs remain elusive. Unlike the Rosetta Stone, which provided a bilingual text and helped unlock the secrets of Egyptian hieroglyphs, no parallel text exists to guide us through Rongorongo. There is no Easter Island Rosetta Stone to provide linguistic footholds. The Rapa Nui language, although still spoken, has undergone centuries of change, further distancing modern researchers from the linguistic context in which Rongorongo was created. The known corpus of Rongorongo is small. Only about 24 tablets survive, scattered among museums in Europe, Chile, and the United States. Each tablet is fragile, many are scorched or worn, and some were even carved on driftwood or repurposed planks. The glyphs themselves, over 600 distinct signs, resemble stylized representations of people, animals, plants, and geometric shapes. Some scholars have proposed that these symbols may have been mnemonic, rather than fully phonetic or semantic, perhaps used to aid in the oral transmission of religious chants or genealogical records. Others argue that Rongorongo may be a true writing system, capable of recording complex information and ideas. Adding to the enigma is the historical context. When missionaries arrived in the 19th century, they were told that the islanders no longer knew how to read the tablets. Oral traditions claimed that reading Rongorongo was once a sacred skill possessed only by high-ranking priests or elite scribes. But with colonization came cultural upheaval, the suppression of native beliefs, the burning of religious artifacts, and the spread of diseases that devastated the population. It's entirely possible that the last keepers of Rongorongo literacy died without passing on their knowledge, effectively sealing the script's secrets forever. Numerous attempts have been made to analyze the script statistically. Some researchers, such as Thomas Barthel in the 1950s, catalogued and numbered hundreds of glyphs, identifying recurring patterns and potential grammatical structures. More recently, computer algorithms and AI models have been employed in hopes of finding hidden structures or correlations. Some progress has been made, suggestions of repeated formulas, possible personal names, or ritualistic phrases, but no translation has gained scholarly consensus. The problem remains compounded by the script's small corpus size, lack of context, and potential mixing of symbolic and phonetic elements. The lack of consensus has spawned a wide range of interpretations. Some claim the script is not a language at all, but a proto-writing or symbolic art. Others insist it is a sophisticated syllabic system. A few fringe theories even suggest external origins, connecting Rongorongo to Old World scripts, ancient South American cultures, or alien intervention. These ideas, while often sensationalized, reflect a deeper frustration that such an intricate and seemingly purposeful system of communication could resist all efforts at understanding. If deciphered, Rongorongo could completely reshape our view of Polynesian history. It could provide unprecedented insights into Rapa Nui's political systems, religious beliefs, social structures, and cultural practices prior to European contact. It might also show that the people of Easter Island developed writing independently, a feat extremely rare in human history, only accomplished by a handful of civilizations such as the Sumerians, Chinese, and Mayans. That possibility alone gives the script immense historical significance, placing it in a global narrative of human intellectual achievement. Ironically, the very existence of Rongorongo challenges long-held assumptions about non-literate societies in the Pacific. For centuries, scholars believed that Polynesian cultures relied solely on oral traditions, but Rongorongo, if proven to be a full writing system, would disrupt that narrative, demonstrating a higher level of abstraction and record-keeping than previously thought. Its undeciphered nature is both a barrier and a beacon, a reminder of what has been lost and what might still be found. In recent years, there has been growing interest in revisiting Rongorongo using modern tools, machine learning, pattern recognition, and comparative linguistics. Yet the success of such endeavors depends on collaboration between linguists, cultural historians, and the Rapa Nui community. Ethical considerations must also guide this process. After all, Rongorongo is more than just a puzzle. It is a piece of living heritage, a remnant of a world view erased by colonization and modernity. For now, the wooden tablets remain silent rows of mysterious glyphs carved by hands long gone, telling stories no one alive can read. But their silence is not absence. It is a challenge, a whisper from the past, daring us to listen harder, think deeper, and approach knowledge not just as something to possess, but something to preserve and understand. What do you think Rongorongo was really used for? Was it a sacred script reserved for priest kings and forgotten rituals, a record of history, now lost to time? Or could it be something we haven't even imagined yet? Let us know in the comments. What's your theory behind this ancient code no one can read? Hidden in the serene English countryside nestled within the historic grounds of Shugborough Hall lies a riddle carved not in whispers but in stone. At first glance, it's nothing grand, no golden tombs, no towering monuments, just a row of 10 cryptic letters DOUSVAVVM etched between the silent flanks of 2 stone pillars. And yet this unassuming string of characters has confounded scholars, spies, code breakers, and cryptologists for over 250 years. Not a single soul, from amateur sleuths to the brightest minds in British intelligence, has been able to crack its meaning. This isn't just a forgotten relic. It's a direct challenge across centuries, a stone that dares us to understand it. The stone that bears the cryptic inscription is part of an elaborate relief sculpture modeled after the Shepherds of Arcadia, a 17th century painting by French artist Nicolas Poussin. In the Shugborough adaptation, 3 shepherds and a woman gather around a tomb that bears the Latin phrase et in Arcadia ego, often translated as even in Arcadia I am present. This phrase has long been interpreted as a poetic reminder of mortality, that even in paradise, death casts its shadow. The combination of classical imagery and a cryptic inscription beneath it suggests a deliberate layering of symbolism, one that invites not only admiration, but decoding. Directly beneath the Arcadian relief at Shugborough Hall lies the true heart of the mystery, a short line of 10 capital letters, DOUSVAVVM, carved in stone without any punctuation spaces or context. The inscription appears deceptively simple, yet for more than 2.5 centuries, it has resisted all efforts at interpretation. There are no surviving documents explaining its purpose, no signature from its creator, and no historical clue as to what inspired it. Why would someone place such a cryptic message beneath a scene, meditating on death and the transience of life? The placement feels deliberate, as though it holds a hidden truth awaiting discovery. Over the years, a diverse range of individuals have attempted to decode it, from curious tourists and armchair historians to some of Britain's most sophisticated intelligence minds at MI5 and GCHQ. Despite their expertise in cryptography and pattern recognition, no one has presented a solution accepted by scholars or historians. The more deeply researchers dive into its mystery, the more elusive the answer becomes, turning this string of 10 letters into a labyrinth of human meaning, a puzzle that continues to challenge reason and imagination alike. Since the 18th century, the Shugborough inscription has inspired a vast array of interpretations, from scholarly to sensational. Some theorists believe the 10 letters are abbreviations for a Latin religious invocation, possibly a memento mori or a spiritual reflection on death. Others insist the code was crafted by the Knights Templar, suggesting it contains clues to the location of the Holy Grail, hidden knowledge, or sacred relics. More radical ideas propose that the message originates from a lost civilization or even extraterrestrial intelligence, hinting at communication far beyond the human timeline. Each new theory seems to pull the mystery into a different intellectual or mystical domain, layering meaning upon meaning. And yet none have been conclusively proven. The absence of historical records or any corroborating evidence keeps all explanations in the realm of speculation, turning the inscription into a mirror for the minds that try to solve it. In 1982, the publication of the controversial bestseller The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail brought the Shugborough inscription to global attention. The authors Bagent Lee and Lincoln proposed that the mysterious sequence of letters was more than a historical curiosity. It was a deliberate code, pointing toward the true whereabouts of the Holy Grail. However, their interpretation redefined the Grail, not as a chalice, but as a symbol of divine bloodlines or suppressed spiritual knowledge passed down through secret societies. Though historians and theologians heavily criticized the book for its speculative leaps and lack of evidence, the theory struck a cultural nerve. The Shugborough stone suddenly became more than an artifact. It became a catalyst for conspiracy, embedding itself into a broader mythos of hidden truths, ancient wisdom, and forbidden history. Among the many attempts to decode the Shugborough inscription, one of the most frequently cited theories is that the letters are an acronym for a full Latin sentence with deep spiritual meaning. A proposed reconstruction reads, De omnipotentis umbra omnia sunt vanitas aeternum, vanitas vanitatum memento mori, which translates to under the shadow of Almighty God, all things are vanity. Vanity of vanities, remember death. This interpretation fits neatly with the somber tone of the Arcadian tomb scene and reflects Enlightenment-era reflections on mortality and the fleeting nature of life. However, like many other hypotheses, it lacks historical documentation or physical evidence, leaving it in the realm of educated speculation rather than verified fact. One of the most enduring mysteries surrounding the Shugborough inscription is the question of authorship. No official records from the estate indicate who designed or carved the enigmatic code. Some historians point to Thomas Anson, the 18th century owner of Shugborough, known for his fascination with classical philosophy symbolism and rumored ties to secret societies like the Freemasons. His intellectual background and artistic interests suggest he may have commissioned the code as a philosophical or esoteric statement. Others argue it could have been the work of an anonymous stonemason, perhaps someone initiated into hidden knowledge who saw the monument as a final opportunity to encode a personal or spiritual message into stone, a silent legacy meant to outlast time itself. What makes the Shugborough inscription truly extraordinary is its defiance of progress. In an age where artificial intelligence deciphers lost languages, quantum computing solves near-impossible problems, and satellites scan every inch of the Earth, this 10-letter code carved in the 18th century remains untouched by certainty. It serves as a powerful reminder of the boundaries of human comprehension, where science, faith, and symbolism converge and yet fail to provide clarity. That is why it continues to captivate, not just as a historical curiosity, but as a timeless enigma that challenges our belief in how much we truly know. That inscription, carved into an unassuming stone in the English countryside, still stands unmoved by time and untouched by definitive meaning. It evokes the same awe humanity once felt when first gazing at the stars, a mix of wonder and endless questioning. Perhaps its value lies not in the solution, but in the journey of seeking a pursuit with no end, and perhaps no need for one. What do you think the Shugborough inscription means? Could it be a forgotten prayer, a secret left by the Knights Templar, or something far more personal? Perhaps a message meant for just one person now, long gone. With over 250 years of mystery and no clear answer, maybe it's time for a fresh perspective. Share your theory in the comments, no matter how wild or logical, and let's see what modern minds can uncover from this ancient code. In the heart of Australia's untamed wilderness, far from any desert pyramid or pharaoh's tomb, lies a weathered rock face that defies logic, history, and borders. Deep within the forests of Carryong, New South Wales, a series of strange carvings silently wait to be understood. At first, they seem like nothing more than crude scratches, lost to time. But as sunlight grazes the sandstone, a shocking truth begins to surface. These symbols look nearly identical to to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, not inspired by them, not vaguely similar, identical. How could a writing system born along the Nile appear on a secluded cliffside halfway across the globe, and who carved them thousands of years ago or in recent decades as part of an elaborate deception? The Gosford glyphs are more than an archaeological oddity. They are a direct challenge to everything we thought we knew about history, human migration, and the reach of ancient civilizations. What makes the Gosford glyphs one of the most controversial archaeological mysteries in the world is their striking and uncanny resemblance to the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic system, a highly complex and symbolic writing form closely associated with religious rituals, royal authority, and ancient mythology. The carvings found on the rocks at Carillon don't just resemble these forms superficially. They accurately depict specific and sacred symbols, such as the Eye of Horus symbol of protection and awareness, a coiled serpent representing royal power, the Ankh cross symbolizing eternal life, and the scarab beetle linked to rebirth, and the sun, all of which held deep significance in Egyptian culture thousands of years before the Common Era. What astonishes researchers even more than the visual resemblance is the arrangement and syntactic structure of the symbol clusters. Some carvings clearly follow the grammatical rules used in written Egyptian, especially the style typical of the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, famed for building the Great Pyramid of Giza around 2600 BCE. The way the symbols are grouped, the direction of inscription, the repetition patterns, and even the spacing between sets of glyphs all suggest a sophisticated understanding of how true hieroglyphic writing worked, something that even modern individuals would struggle to replicate without extensive study. This leads to a fundamental and unsettling question for both mainstream scholars and alternative researchers alike. Who carved these symbols, and how could they have achieved such near-perfect accuracy in the middle of the Australian wilderness? If it is a hoax, then the perpetrator must have possessed remarkable knowledge of Egyptology, linguistics, and stone carving skills rarely combined in any one individual, let alone in an amateur during the 20th century. But if it's real, then the Gosford glyphs may not just be a historical anomaly, but a key to unlocking an entirely new chapter in the story of ancient intercontinental contact between civilizations. The uncanny resemblance between the glyphs at Carillon and ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs has sparked a wave of alternative theories. Most notably, the idea that ancient Egyptians may have set foot in Australia thousands of years ago. According to some hypotheses, a group of Egyptian priests, nobles, or sailors may have been shipwrecked during an unrecorded expedition, leaving behind the carvings now known as the Gosford glyphs. The story becomes even more sensational, with claims that the area was once an ancient energy hub where civilizations could connect through time corridors or deep spatial portals. Although no mainstream archaeological evidence supports these ideas, they continue to captivate a wide audience, ranging from independent researchers and mystics to those who believe that many chapters of human history remain unwritten. For these believers, the Gosford glyphs are not merely an archaeological curiosity, but rather a missing piece of a forgotten global past. Since their public revelation in the 1970s, the Gosford glyphs have become the center of intense controversy between mainstream archaeologists and alternative researchers. Professional archaeologists argue that the carvings show no signs of weathering consistent with artifacts that are thousands of years old. On the contrary, some of the glyphs appear to have been made with modern metal tools, exhibiting sharp lines and surfaces that look far too new for truly ancient relics. Furthermore, many linguists have noted that the clusters of symbols include characters from various different periods in Egyptian history and even contain basic grammatical errors. Based on this, the prevailing theory in academic circles is that these glyphs were likely created by enthusiasts of ancient Egypt, carved in the 20th century, either as an artistic experiment, a historical homage, or simply as part of an elaborate mystery or hoax. Yet the debate continues, as many of the glyphs display a level of detail and consistency that seems too precise to dismiss as random or amateur work. Despite being dismissed by mainstream archaeologists, supporters of the Gosford glyphs' authenticity continue to offer compelling counter-arguments. They ask, could an ordinary person in the 20th century really carve hundreds of complex symbols in authentic ancient Egyptian style without expert knowledge or scholarly resources? Moreover, why would someone choose a remote, hard-to-reach forest location instead of a public space if it were merely a prank? They also point to many intricate and consistent details, from the depth of the carvings and the layout of the symbols to the relatively accurate grammar that make the modern forgery theory seem unconvincing. To them, these glyphs may be genuine remnants of a forgotten chapter in human history. Hidden deep within the wild forests of Karyong, the site of the Gosford glyphs is not only intriguing for its resemblance to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, but also holds profound spiritual meaning for the local Aboriginal communities. According to long-standing spiritual traditions, this place is seen as a sacred point of connection between humans, their ancestors, the Earth Mother, and supernatural beings. Supporters of ancient contact theories believe that because of this sacredness, the glyphs could represent remnants of an ancient encounter between the indigenous people and visitors from afar, possibly from ancient Egypt. Others suggest that the carvings are stories preserved through collective memory and etched in stone, serving as evidence of cultural exchanges never recorded in modern history. From the perspective of indigenous culture, these carvings are not merely an archaeological mystery, but a sacred part of the land's spiritual identity and ancestral legacy. Regardless of which theory holds truth, the Gosford glyphs remain a fascinating and divisive mystery. Mainstream archaeology may label them as fakes, but that hasn't stopped millions from asking deeper questions about the history we think we know. The striking similarity between the Karyong symbols and genuine ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs remains a detail too significant to ignore. Could this be proof of a forgotten chapter in human history or the masterwork of a dreamer lost to time? The answer still lies hidden deep in the Australian bush, waiting to be uncovered. Imagine stumbling into the Karyong forest and coming face to face with symbols meticulously carved into stone symbols that look exactly like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. What would you think? Is this an elaborate 20th century hoax, or could it be evidence of an ancient contact never recorded in history books? Does the story of the Gosford glyphs make you question what we've always accepted as official history? Do you believe this is a hidden truth, long buried, or just a modern legend? Share your thoughts in the comments. Every perspective might unlock another piece of this mystery. Deep within a remote cave in Mexico, what seemed at first to be the remains of an unknown child shook the foundations of archaeology for nearly a century. It wasn't just any skull, it was the Starchild skull, a bizarre bone structure with features that match no known human species. An abnormally large brain cavity, shallow and wide eye sockets, reminiscent of something extraterrestrial, and bones so thin yet strong, it resembles synthetic material. All of it left experts baffled. But what truly makes this one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of mankind isn't just its strange appearance. It's the unsettling truth. No one has ever been able to determine this being's exact age or even its gender. The biological markers contradict each other, the skeletal structure doesn't fit any human model, and its DNA raises more questions than it answers. Is this simply a case of rare genetic deformity, or the trace of a being never before recorded in human history? And if so, where did it come from? In the early 1930s, a young Mexican-American girl exploring a cave system near Chihuahua, Mexico, accidentally discovered two skeletons lying side by side, one belonging to an adult, the other to a child. But what shocked her was that the child's skull had an unmistakably strange shape. An abnormally enlarged cranium, wide and shallow eye sockets slanted at an odd angle, cranial bones as thin as paper, yet mysteriously rigid, and most notably, a complete lack of frontal sinuses. Believing it to be a remarkable artifact, she brought the skull back to the United States and kept it for the rest of her life. It wasn't until decades later, after the skull was passed on to independent researchers, that it began to attract global attention, sparking widespread fascination under the mysterious name, the Starchild skull. At first glance, the Starchild skull might be mistaken for that of a child with a congenital deformity. However, as anatomists and anthropologists began to examine it more closely, they quickly realized that its structure did not resemble any human skull ever recorded and could not be fully explained by existing medical knowledge. To begin with, its cranial capacity reached approximately 1600 cm, significantly larger than the average adult human 1400 cm, even though other features suggested it belonged to a child. Furthermore, the skull bones were not only thin and lightweight, but they also exhibited a fibrous microstructure never seen in any known human specimen. In tests, researchers found that it required 3 times the normal force to cut through this bone compared to ordinary human skulls. The eye sockets were also peculiar, wide, shallow, and slanted, deviating from any known anatomical standard of Homo sapiens. Lastly, the skull completely lacked frontal sinuses, a rare but still possible trait in humans. Yet when all of these anomalies coexist in a single specimen, it transcends the explanation of mere deformity, becoming a biological enigma that cannot be easily dismissed. Faced with the bizarre features of the Starchild skull, many scientists have attempted to offer conventional medical explanations. They suggested that it could be the skull of a child suffering from severe congenital disorders such as Crouzon syndrome, hydrocephalus, or a combination of rare cranial deformities. However, proponents of alternative theories quickly pushed back. How could all these abnormalities occur simultaneously in a single individual? And why was its bone structure so radically different, both physically and chemically, from any known human specimen? In search of answers, an independent research effort called the Starchild Project conducted multiple DNA analyses on the skull. The results revealed that the mitochondrial DNA inherited from the mother was human, but the nuclear DNA, which contains the core genetic information that determines species identity, was faint, fragmented, or even unidentifiable. This ambiguity sparked a bold hypothesis that the skull might belong to a hybrid, being part human, part an entirely unknown species, possibly even extraterrestrial. Among all the mysteries surrounding the Starchild skull, the inability to determine the being's exact age and gender is perhaps the most confounding issue for scientists. With typical human remains, anthropologists can estimate age and sex with relative accuracy using indicators such as tooth development, deciduous or permanent, the maturity of cranial and jaw bones, the shape of suture joints, bone, mineral density, and characteristic morphological traits associated with gender. However, in this case, all of those indicators contradict each other in dramatic ways. The presence of baby teeth suggests the individual was only about 5 to 6 years old, and there are no signs of permanent teeth developing, which would normally occur at that age. This supports the theory that it was a child, yet when examining the skull bones, researchers observed features typically found in adults. Sutures had narrowed the bone. Tissue was dense, the structure was solid, and mineralization levels were high, all signs of a much older age. Radiometric dating to estimate biological age also yielded results that didn't match the age inferred from dental evidence. Even more perplexing, the morphological traits of the skull do not conform to any known pattern associated with male or female humans, rendering gender determination virtually impossible. After numerous attempts, scientists had to admit that using all available tools, from classical anthropological methods to advanced analytical technologies, we still cannot determine this being's true age or gender. This isn't just a technical challenge. It may be a sign that this being does not fully belong to the biological framework of humanity as we understand it. Since the late 1990s, many mainstream scientists have refused to continue researching this specimen, dismissing it as unscientific. Yet the mystery-loving public became more captivated than ever. Amid DNA sampling, physical analysis, and claims of alien origin, the Starchild skull gradually became a symbol of a mystery abandoned by science. Some independent scientists have proposed reanalyzing it with next-generation genomic tools, but high costs and legal ownership barriers have stalled progress. From a scientific standpoint, the Starchild skull is a dilemma too different to conclude using traditional methods, yet too unbelievable to openly explore radical hypotheses. From a paranormal perspective, it's living evidence of something beyond imagination, a suggestion that we may not have been the only intelligent species to walk this earth. In a world where every strand of DNA tells a story, the Starchild remains silent. And perhaps the biggest question isn't where did it come from, but rather, are we ready to accept the answer if it breaks every scientific boundary we've ever known? What do you think is the Starchild skull? Simply a rare medical anomaly, or evidence of something far beyond our current understanding? Do you believe that humans may have once coexisted with other unknown beings, even if only for a fleeting moment in evolutionary history? Share your thoughts, because sometimes a new perspective might bring us one step closer to the truth. Deep beneath the sun-scorched cliffs of Egypt's Valley of the Kings, where pharaohs sought eternal glory in golden tombs, one burial breaks all the rules. No name, no coffin, no dignity, just a body wrapped in animal skin mouth, frozen in a silent scream as if death had come in agony and shame. For over a century, this disturbing figure, labeled only as Unknown Man, has haunted archaeologists. Why was he buried among kings, yet denied the rituals of one? And more chillingly, what did he do to deserve it? In 1886, while exploring the hidden tomb, known as DB 320 in Egypt's Valley of the Kings, archaeologists made a chilling discovery, one that stood in stark contrast to the carefully embalmed and honorably buried pharaohs around it. Amid gilded sarcophagi and meticulously wrapped royals lay a body that broke every tradition. No name inscribed, no protective coffin, no funerary amulets, and most disturbingly wrapped in sheepskin, a material deemed ritually impure in ancient Egyptian religion. This was not a royal burial, it was a statement of disgrace. Even more haunting was the mummy's posture, his mouth agape, in what seemed to be an eternal scream, his limbs contorted as if death had come violently or in horror. Whoever this man was, he had been denied peace. Stripped of dignity and identity, he was known only by a sterile title, Unknown Man E. In stark contrast to the traditional 70-day embalming process reserved for nobles and royalty, Unknown Man E was never disemboweled nor treated with fragrant resins or the standard preservation techniques of ancient Egypt. His body was crudely and disrespectfully preserved, as if his death had come suddenly or worse, deliberately mishandled. Yet strangely, the corpse remained remarkably intact, prompting scientists to question, was this a case of poisoning strangulation or some other unnatural cause of death? Combined with his pained facial expression, gaping mouth, and contorted posture, many experts believe this was not a natural death, but a severe punishment, both physical and spiritual. For decades, the true identity of unknown man E remained pure speculation until modern science offered a critical breakthrough. In 2012, under the direction of renowned Egyptologist Dr. Zahi Hawass, a research team conducted DNA testing on several royal mummies, including Pharaoh Ramses III, the last truly powerful ruler of Egypt's new kingdom. At the same time, the team revisited a chilling ancient document, the Judicial Papyrus of Turin, which recorded a detailed account of a palace conspiracy in ancient Egypt, one that could hold the key to the mystery of the screaming mummy. According to the papyrus, Queen Tia, a secondary wife of Ramses III, orchestrated an elaborate assassination plot to overthrow the king and place her son, Prince Pentawer, on the throne. The conspiracy involved multiple royal insiders and trusted officials, but the plan was discovered and crushed. Ramses III was ultimately found to have had his throat cut, a detail confirmed centuries later through CT scans of his mummy. Most conspirators were publicly tried and punished according to the law. As for Pentawer, the record states he was forced to take his own life, a phrase loaded with ambiguity, but clearly pointing to a harsh and deeply disgraceful sentence. After that, his name vanished from official records, no tomb, no inscription, no trace. It's within this historical void that unknown man E emerged like a ghost. When his DNA was analyzed, Hawass's team discovered a direct genetic link. He was the son of Ramses III. This meant that among the countless possibilities buried in the Valley of the Kings, Pentawer stood out as the most plausible match. But his identity wasn't confirmed by genetics alone, it was written into how he had been buried. His mummy was wrapped in sheepskin, a material considered ritually impure, symbolizing defilement and shame in Egyptian burial customs. The absence of a name, the lack of burial goods, and the complete disregard for proper embalming rites all pointed to a deliberate act to erase him from history and deny his soul passage into the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian belief, this was worse than death itself. A person who died without a name or proper rites could never enter the Duat, the afterlife realm where souls are judged and reborn. Instead, they would be eternally trapped between worlds, doomed to wander without rest. If unknown man E was indeed Pentawer, his punishment was not just physical death, but spiritual annihilation, a sentence designed to echo through eternity. His identity and the way he was treated in death reveals not just a dramatic court conspiracy, but also how power in ancient Egypt used death itself as a tool to erase memory, honor, and even the soul. This is why the question, who was unknown man E, continues to resonate, not just because science hasn't reached a final verdict, but because he stands as a vivid symbol of political tragedy and the devastating price of betrayal in a culture obsessed with death and the afterlife. While the theory identifying unknown man E as Prince Pentawer has gained significant traction, some scholars remain unconvinced. They argue that the mummy's contorted expression, mouth wide open in what appears to be a scream, could result from natural post-mortem processes such as jaw relaxation after death, rather than evidence of violent trauma or punishment. Additionally, the fact that he was buried in DB 320 alongside revered pharaohs and queens has led some to suggest that his treatment was not entirely disgraceful. It may indicate that sympathetic priests defied official condemnation, choosing instead to bury him near his royal lineage in an act of quiet mercy, even if they withheld his name to avoid political scandal. Unknown Man, E is not merely an unidentified mummy, he has become a living symbol of royal tragedy in ancient Egypt. If he was indeed Prince Pentawere, his story vividly reflects the brutality of power where a son could betray his own father for the throne only to be cursed after death. He represents a society in which betrayal was punished not just by execution, but by erasure from memory and from the afterlife itself, a sentence that condemned the soul to eternal unrest. Today, the screaming face of this mummy continues to appear in museums, documentaries, and facial reconstructions. Scientists still study him. Novelists write tales of forbidden love, political betrayal, and cursed destinies. But no one has offered a final answer. And perhaps that's why this story continues to endure. In a culture devoted to immortality and spiritual order, Unknown Man, E, is a painful paradox, a man erased from memory and punished in death, yet who has become an eternal symbol of unresolved mystery. His face, twisted in silent agony, still screams across time, reminding us that some souls are never at rest. The story of Unknown Man, a cursed mummy, possibly a rebellious prince, or merely a victim of ruthless power, remains unresolved to this day. If it were up to you, would he deserve forgiveness and the right to be called by his true name? Or should he forever remain in silence, a warning carved in flesh? Share your thoughts below. Was he truly Pentawa? And does his soul deserve to rest at last?